Hey, what is up, interwebs? It is your headmaster of the GQAzndood Gaming Academy. GQAzndood, nobody else. Happy Tuesday. What is it? March 4th, right? It's making sure I got my dates straight because the days are lasting longer and our streams are even lasting even longer. But hey, tonight we're flipping the switch with This Week in Gaming History, celebrating the Nintendo Switch's launch because let's face it, it's the little console of joy that conned us all. Feel like that one. Also, and check this out. We're putting video game box art to the test with a showdown between Japan's sleek and mysterious covers versus the United States. I need more explosions and more 80s vibes. It's East versus West, and the winner is, well, probably our meme. So we'll figure that out in a second. Also, Blazing Ace Nelson is back in the tech, and he's ready to slice and dice with the Buster Sword in God Eater 3. Expect more tips, tricks, and maybe some God tier dad jokes. And just when you thought the 90s were over, Acclaim is back in the news. That's right. Acclaim has finally returned to the gaming scene after all this time. Our news guru, Nick, aka the Tragically Elite, will break down if it's a comeback or a retro reboot gone rogue. So get ready to press start because in this episode is about to level up. Let's get gaming. And with that said, let me introduce the first faculty member for tonight, the one and only, the Blazing, the Ace, the Nelson.
What's good, neighborhood?
What up?
Welcome back. Welcome
back. How's your week been?
Ahem. My week has been pretty much all but taken over by Monster Hunter.
Hey, I feel you. So I ordered the game right in Best Buy just in time to get a pre-order bonus and everything. I literally ordered it like 48 hours before it came out, and FedEx said it would be delivered Saturday. So I expected Saturday to be my Monster Hunter install and get the tutorial done, which is the story mode, right? Pretty much. No, it did not come until Sunday like afternoon. And so I spent the last probably 4 hours of Sunday catching up, getting the tutorial done. So I haven't even scratched the surface of this game. And you know what? I did not like the beta. Seems to be a theme with GQAzndood. Don't like the beta. But hey, this version of the game feels pretty good. Not gonna lie, loving it so far. So I get the hype. So awesome. Yeah. So you've been playing Monster Hunter Wilds, and what else is doing the Aces world?
Let's see. Been rocking Monster Hunter Wilds, dipping back and forth between the first Descendant with some of the major updates coming, and of course the first character drop for Warriors Abyss.
Okay. Well, who dropped in Abyss?
Like the main portion of the Jin Kingdom. So Sumashura, pretty much all the Jin characters that are like directly related to Suma Yi.
Okay, and are they dropping them by like the kingdom, or is it by like how they have themes for these drops? Like, what do you think?
I wouldn't be surprised if they drop them by kingdom. So there's probably going to be like a second Jin drop with characters like Wen Yang, Jin Shang.
Yeah, like the latter characters, like the guy that throws the swords. I like that guy. Yeah. I'll shout out to the Blue Riot bot, Andre Venom 98 as always, or 95, my bad. They're in chat right now, so awesome. Good to see you guys. This looks like Andre's been playing Metaphor, and right now he's in the village where you have to hunt down a knight named Heizme. So it seems like Metaphor has been absorbing a lot of everybody's lives lately. So talk about a game that keeps on giving. So but yeah, this March, man, I'm telling you, Monster Hunter's out, and you're gonna be busy with that. We're gonna be getting updates here and there. I can already feel it. Like the game is setting me up to expect updates, right, consistently.
Oh yeah.
But later on this month, I think the last week, we're also getting the first Berserker Kazan, which is another awesome title. I'm gonna get day one as well, so I got a busy month ahead of me. It's pretty great. Yeah, I'm pretty excited. So well, aside from that, we'll be hopefully we'll have Nicholas, aka the Tragic Elite, show up here in a second and give us the big news for tonight that Acclaim is back. I'm excited for that. We'll be covering that discussion during our segment called The Rhetorical. So can't wait for that as well. Of course, let's get through this right away because the last time we had so much content. We want to make sure we got everything covered tonight. So with that said, let's get going with some, of course, the one
Yo, check this out.
It's just that vibe, man. It just feels really good. Feels really good. So TJ Combo's got a hidden spot in my heart. So I don't know if you know this, but like back in third grade, maybe sixth grade, I can't remember, so long ago. I had a show and tell in middle school, right? My show and tell was how to get good with TJ Combo. Nobody knew, but my like 4 friends that I gained with knew what I was talking about, right? But it was I got an A because I was very passionate and I knew exactly what the topic was. But I'm sure everybody was like, "What is he talking about?" I don't know before. So, but yeah, this week on Yo, check this out. We're changing the crazy retro gaming ads and we're changing it up a little bit. So don't panic. I'll give you an update right now. I'll change it right in the screen. We'll do. Well, can you guys guess what we'll be doing tonight? I know Ace already knows, so he can just hold off for a second.
And we did make a little mention of it earlier, so class, if you were paying attention and taking notes.
That's right. I'm going to update it right now. See if you guys can see it on the caption. Yes. So we're doing crazy cool box art battle East versus West. So last time Nick said that like, hey, you know what would be cool? If we compared box arts from the Japanese releases through the West releases, right? So I said, okay, why not? Let's do that. Mm-hmm. All right. So I figured there's so much I can show you guys tonight. So what I decided to focus on were like maybe like some of the more popular games per generation: Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Genesis, PlayStation, all the way up to the 360, right? So I'm not going to go too hard into it. But with that said, let's go to the legendary Super Mario Brothers, right? We all love and know what the Mario Brothers box art looks like. But just to remind you, it's on the screen, okay? So that's the classic box art. Every Nintendo had one, right? And if you didn't know what it was, you're gonna find
the one
out.
That's the one right there that made my Christmas.
Right? And here's the thing, man. I was actually a huge fan of this like aesthetic. Like the pixel art, like zoomed in, and then the like the title, Nintendo Entertainment System, and a little bottom left icon there of like it was action series or adventure series, right? That was super cool to me. So
it's not necessarily. It wasn't necessarily like ESRB, but still a content advisory.
Yeah, that's correct, and it kind of helps you get an idea of like what kind of game it is, right? Right. So speaking of, we got Nick just launched in here. What up? What up?
Hey, sorry, still being finicky, but hello, everyone.
No, you're good. You're good.
So I love that every week it keeps me on my toes.
We just introduced your pretty much your idea of doing the crazy box art battle East versus West for Yo, check this out, this segment. So Andre says hello, Nick.
Oh, hi. Yeah, well, we can't start without all three, Andre, when my internet refuses to work. So I'm looking into a mesh network so I won't look so grainy and everything. It really isn't my camera. It's my shit internet. It's going through multiple walls in a bathroom. It's not good.
Yeah, and then we're at a complex where there's like multiple modems in each unit. So it's like
pro tip. Moving into a newer building, check and see if they already have internet hardware installed. There's like giant hubs for a different company, like that were clogging up the little Wi-Fi around us. So that's great. The little invisible wires. Anyway, yes, let's get to these box arts, man.
So everybody's familiar with the classic Nintendo box art. This is very common. It would license Nintendo games, right? Legend of Zelda had the same one. Actually, they didn't. They have the golden one, but like Urban Champion,
black boxes.
Yeah, the classic boxes. But here's what it looks like in the Famicom, which is the Japanese version. What a difference in box art.
Yo.
So, that is pretty cool. And I think honestly, this was the art on the manual, I think, for the Nintendo US version, right? So yeah.
At least like it was the left side. Like the left side, pretty much from Mario to the left.
Yeah, you're right. It cuts off, right? You don't see the Hammer Bro, right? Yeah, I think that's, you can maybe see Lakitu a little bit, right? But yeah, that's man, they love and I don't know why they just would not choose this one. I think they were going for an aesthetic, right? Like video gamey, pixel art, retro arcade, maybe, right?
Well, like that's the main reason I wanted to do this is kind of think about the history of this. So remember that we had the giant Atari and video game crash in like 83, right? And Nintendo
Mhm.
was supposed to be like this big
The
up and
Messiah.
coming kind of thing. And the US market was really nervous about it and didn't want to get
Yeah.
behind it. They're kind of burnt out after how Atari burned them, right? All the money that was
Yeah.
lost with that. So they were kind of sticking to the like Atari aesthetic, what had worked for Atari, what was familiar. So the reason I wanted to do these battles, not just for us on the panel, but for everyone in the comments, just to kind of like think about like, hey, this is the difference between the markets. What were they trying to say behind these images? And in some cases, why were the Japanese ones just better? And is that better because we're looking back now and we're like, I would have loved that more and I didn't know better. I was a tiny kid, right? I had the cartridge. I didn't know the boxes. It
Yeah.
wasn't until like James and I started working at a retro store and you started seeing like the complete in box stuff come in and you're seeing these original boxes. You get that nostalgic like kick. But then you also at this same retro store start getting Famicom games in their boxes, which you never saw before, at least for me. And they get to see them. You're like, this is so much cooler. Why didn't we get this?
And I'm
And
pretty sure
these boxes are like sideways, right? They're horizontal.
these were like lengthwise too. Like they were different, you know.
Yeah, they were horizontal versus
were like cassette tapes.
yeah.
You know, so all right, we're gonna jump a generation all the way to the Super Nintendo. Still Mario though, so everybody will be familiar with this one as well. I'm sure everybody saw this already. If not, there's an issue. Okay, so everybody knows Super Mario World, right? You see it right out of your Super Nintendo action set.
And with this one,
you hear the theme song.
Kind of feels like
yeah.
With this one, it kind of feels like they're trying to, like split the difference between the East and the West because, instead of, trying to go for something that's more pixelated or, something that shows, what's in the game, still keeping it video gamey, they're actually using more Mario artwork.
Like game art, yeah. Yeah. And I noticed that with their Super Nintendo games, like Battle Clash was the one of them where it really like stood out to me. Super Punch Out was another one that stood out to me too. They used the funky artwork that Nintendo did, right? But here's an interesting part about this. So I'm going to show you the Super Famicom version, and it kind of switches. Check this out. So it's now vertical for them for the Super Famicom. Where it's swapped. You know,
and they threw the English words up there first, like the logo.
Yeah, yeah. And here's the funny thing: the logo for the Famicom for Super Nintendo, they just grayed out all the shapes. Right, it's still the same logo, but they removed the coloring for some reason. Right.
And so one thing that also really pops out to me is the fact that on the Super Famicom, Super Mario World is actually directly acknowledged as Super Mario Brothers 4.
Yeah. So that. I mean, we knew the West was very bad with numeration when it came to video games because they skipped some games, aka Final Fantasy games, right? So I think they were trying to play it safe because Mario 3 to Mario 4, who knew if this was going to be released? I'm sure it was, but they didn't want to take that risk, right? Maybe they felt obligated to play the other 3 first, right?
That's fair.
So we don't know. So didn't want to linger too much, but I also wanted to give Sega some love. We all know what this box art is, right? What up? Let's go. Giving us the finger right there, Sonic. All right, so we all know what this box art is, but man, I have never seen a Sega Genesis box art go so loud, so hard, right? Check this out. Oh man, am I about to have my birthday party right now? Like that's the vibe I got from this. This is pretty crazy.
Saved by the Hedgehog.
Saved by the Hedgehog. I like that. So, but yeah, that's it's like look at the contrast, right? It's like this, which is very loud, very colorful, and I see a pattern here with US versus East, right? But I do love the Sega grid in the background. That's iconic. The Sega grid in the background.
Right, and just
I love that.
Like the fact that pretty much is like the format for all of the box art for the Genesis. It kept it very uniform and it kept it very recognizable.
Yes, well, hey, that's pulling from the past, man. I mean, I saw the examples that James is pulling up tonight. Some of the examples that we'll probably get into in later weeks. Think about what came right before this, and think about the Mega Drive games. Their cartridges had the grid behind it too. And as they jumped to the Genesis and everything, they pulled from that same thing.
Yep.
Very different, keep in mind, because if you look at some of those like Mega Drive cart like cases, the like cover arts for them, and then the comparison in the other market, what we got was so bland. It was an Excel sheet compared to what we got.
Yeah, here's another sample or two. Here's a Last Battle, aka Fist of the North Star, right? So that's a good example of one.
Look how tight those jeans are. They are painted on.
Bro, you don't even. He has pockets though. Look at that. You know. But like we didn't know what Hokuto no Ken was in the West Coast, right? For the longest time, Western Hemisphere, I should say. But check this out: the Mega Drive in Japan. Like we would be like
up.
It's pretty loud, right? It's pretty out there. So, but this design comes off like you've read the manga, you saw the anime, right? Now play it at home. Like that's the vibe you get. So. And plus, like, if we got a game called Fist of the North Star, we'd probably be like, "What?" Back in the day, we're like, "What does that mean? What does that mean?"
We still got that question when we got the game out on PS3. Like, we were like, "Fist of the North Star."
Yeah. All right, we're gonna jump another generation. We're gonna skip the M64 right into the PlayStation era, with, of course, the mascot of the time. It'll Crash, right? Everybody has this. Everybody remembers this. Right, I see Andre in the chat there popping off. Right now, let me show you the Japanese version.
I need to see this.
This is crazy. What the heck is this though? This is it's even taking a hot minute to load up because it's so crazy, but it should get there in any second now. How big is this file? 4090. Wow. Okay, that's a big file.
What? Whoa!
But isn't that showing you the wackiness of the character, right? And I just have this like feeling that like the US or the West Coast, how do we market to Japan? How do we get them to like our shit? Like
I think Microsoft has been trying to figure that out for years still.
Yeah. And it's funny because I did bring out a 360 sample and an Xbox sample as well. So
and I know you did.
Yeah, that's
one of my favorites.
Andre's like, whoa, that's crazy.
Oh, this
All
is
right,
fun.
All right, we'll jump on to the Xbox here with one of the most legendary games, of course. And for myself, I was always curious, like, what did this look like in Japan, right? So let me pull this up. So this is gonna load up for a second. It's a big file, but we all know that box art.
I can make one guess. Gotta be Halo.
Hey, it could be what is that? Phantom Dust.
Yeah.
You don't know. You don't know. But kind of sad that game got canceled. Let's be real. Hey, Dead Asian is in the chat.
Hey, what's good, man?
All right, man, it's taking a hot minute. Let's see here. Maybe we can find a smaller photo.
I mean, you jumped up a generation. There's so many more pixels.
It's high res. No, I think this is like it's a 4K image. That's right.
Yeah, because we go hard.
Yeah, check that out. So that's the US version, right? Only on Xbox, just in case you forgot.
Mm-hmm.
Just in case you forgot. But this one,
Hollywood Video title bar up there.
Hollywood Video, yes. All right, here it is in Japan.
Whoa.
Yeah, little more mysterious.
Yeah,
that's
a little more sci-fi.
Neat.
It's actually rather muted, right, for a Japanese box title, art title. But was that what they were going for with Xbox? I haven't looked at other Japanese Xbox covers.
I'm sure we will look at more, but it was really dependent on the team, the marketing team behind it, from what I saw. But it was definitely trying to speak to like a different kind of crowd. Again, that was kind of the point of this, is just to take a look at it and be like, what were they thinking? Like, what was the difference?
I feel like, I don't know. I feel like with this box art, I think they were actually trying to. I think they were trying to pull that same vibe that you would get from something like, say, Metroid Prime, perhaps.
This gives me Deus Ex vibes.
It does. It does.
Like this leads more into like the sci-fi nature of it. Like Andre said in the chat, it doesn't have the same like action, bombastic, like cinematic look of the US version, and that might be because the US market was so we were hearing so much about like the cinematic gameplay of it, and that's how they're like, we got to market this like amazing new action franchise.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, very Mass Effect-y, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Accurate. Yeah, it's quite muted for a Japanese box art, but we're gonna move on to the next one here, which is actually a good example of East versus West. So we all know we've talked about this game plenty on this channel because we love it.
Classic.
We love it, right? Super cool. Oh, it needs a remake. All the above, right?
Well, I don't know. With certain news that came out earlier today, there is a distinct possibility that we may already be seeing something on the horizon.
That's true, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. So to me, that's very US. Here it is in Japan. Very Japanese. Right? And I noticed they love using the concept art for their box art, which I think is cool. I think that's like a good idea. Plus, like, it gives more exposure to the game art itself, which is nice, right?
Well, keep in mind, remember who the director was of this game?
Yep, I agree. And
then what's it trying to influence then? It looks like a Final Fantasy game.
Yep.
Yeah, I was gonna say like the art itself almost gives you that like Yoshitaka, like very light Yoshitaka, Amano.
This guy looks like he hasn't slept in a while, though.
True, like he's lost in Odyssey.
To be fair,
those games, But yeah, that's it. I just kind of wanted to, that's a small preview of the more that's yet to come later on. We got more box art to cover, right? But we can't put that all in one episode. So yeah, that's pretty much, check this out. Anything else for that, guys?
If you don't mind, the share screen that I put on is the main reason I really wanted to do this, because it's one of my favorite things to talk about after working at a retro store. So this was part of the reason behind it, because it is literally regarded as one of the worst cover arts ever made. And this is a good comparison because this is all three markets. So you have the Japanese market on the left, you have the PAL, so the European version on the bottom right, and then you have the US version in the upper right. So look at that. An old dude on a banjo.
Hyperspeed shootout in space.
This tells you nothing about the game. Now, the other two tells you what this game is about, right? But this, I remember seeing this and just being so confused. And it's been like a common thing talked about in this kind of space, in the gaming space, for a long time, about like notorious cover arts. But just seeing the like differences you got between the markets, and then wondering like what drugs were the US marketers on to think that this would sell, kind of thing, or like why they were trying to do this old man the banjo, what he trying to do, right? So it was just kind of a fun jump off point,
putting Sweet Home Alabama up front.
I've always thought like this guy was minding his own business, right? And then like the super fast spaceship flies in the background, kind of like that. All right, Andre, what you got here for me? Let me see.
Sitting over there.
Oh my! All right. We got a bonus one here for Andre. So let's see. What we got. What we got going on over
there? Old man on the banjo over there, like out of the Kingsman, just country roads take me home.
All right. So this is what Andre suggested. Shouldn't be too bad. Okay. But this is the Japanese version.
What do we got?
Hell yeah!
Yo, that Jack and Daxter box.
That's pretty cool.
That is
cool. You notice how he's not like edgelord in this one, like like he's kind of high spirited.
Yeah, that is rad as hell.
Yeah. If it's a big rabbit hole to go down, definitely suggest it to the class and anyone who's kind of like watching this after fact. Show up to the next one.
Super cheerful. You're right.
Show us some of the ones that you got, because we have a lot. There's a lot. I pulled up a bunch of lists. There's some really cool ones out there, and even like beyond just Jack and Daxter, you should see the differences with like the Ratchet and Clanks. We'll probably get to a couple of them in later weeks, but yeah, it's kind of a weird nostalgia hole that you can kind of like fall down, like looking at these.
Yep, no, for sure. And with that said, that's the new segment. You guys got to play more Killer Instinct. So, well, we all know we love it. Let's run through this week in gaming history. Chat, what's your favorite intro song from, from this, and why is it that one? All right, all right.
Why
As you're new, this segment is called "This Week in Gaming History," where we cover games that came out and game news that came out in this week of gaming history. Usually from Sunday to Saturday. We'll cover that right now. This week it's gonna be March 2nd to March 8th. So let's get cracking. Oh, wrong one. There we go. All right, moving on. All right, March 2nd. It's a graphic intense slide. All right, Ninja Gaiden 2 came out on the Xbox in 2004. I chose this one specifically because I feel like this was the return of a game that was, you know how like right now we're making remakes, right? This was a 2D platformer, now came back as a 3D action game, right? And boy howdy, was it a 3D action game, because it was hard AF at the time, and a lot of people were complaining about it. And right now, with the Dark Souls releases and Elden Rings out there, like this game is a perfect time to come back, which it did come back in the form of Ninja Gaiden 2 Black, which is awesome. And I suggest you check it out when you guys get a chance. So have you guys played Ninja Gaiden or anything like that?
I played the OG. I didn't play this re-release. I forget what else I was playing at the time, but I just knew Ninja Gaiden was tough. And again, we've talked so much how I'm terrible at anything with patterns, so this one was just not for me with combat. It filtered me out early. I thought it looked great. Don't get me wrong. Like I remember when this came out on Xbox, it like blew our minds because like the graphic fidelity at the time was great. It was impressive. It was just not a game for me.
Oh, yeah, it was extremely difficult, even for somebody that has like tenure in this kind of game. Like I was very intimidated by this game, so I don't blame you guys. But yeah, Ace, how about you? Have you played the OG one on the Xbox?
Oh yeah, my brother had this. He was the one out of us that actually got the Xbox when it came out. So yeah, I'd go over his place on the weekends, and I'd have to wait to get down on the PS2 because I'd bring over some PS2 games, but he had that Xbox hooked up, and if they weren't playing Brute Force, football, Ninja Gaiden was on the TV.
Real quick, before I run through the list, it was Brute Force the one with the gun that inverted the world?
I forget like the weapons, but I remember Brute Force because that was like one of the first actual squad-based shooters that I played.
Okay. There was a game on the Xbox which was a shooter like that, when one of the gun you shoot it on the ground, it flips the world over except you, and everybody falls off. And it flips back up. It's so funny. It was really cool. Other cool games that came out on that day also was Drakengard in the PS2 in 2004. We talked about Nier Automata and Drakengard 2, but the first one came out in 2004 on the PlayStation 2. Also, back on it again, Lifeline, I think, came out in the US on the PS2 in 2004 as well. Children of Mana came out on the DS in 2006. Lord of the Rings, Battle for Middle-earth on the PC in 2006 as well. And of course, a game I want to see return back in the market was Battlefield Bad Company 2. Please release a third one on multiple consoles on PC, I think in 2010 as well. So not a bad day for gaming. But also in 2010, hold off here, Sony acquires Media Molecule, aka Little Big Planet. I think one of their best purchases they've ever made.
Absolutely. Yeah. That was a big year for them to be brought in under the Sony umbrella. That was kind of a big get. That was their answer to like Mario and everything. Yeah. And then I remember all the Sackboys with the characters. We started getting stuffies for it in the store and everything. Like that game got huge.
Yeah, no, it was like the create like a Mario Maker, like to me. So
yeah, before Mario Maker.
Daddy just said Drakengard's my jam.
Yep.
I mean, what you got?
I was about to say, remember how I literally just mentioned, I wanted to play the PS2, but my brother had the Xbox hooked up. Drakengard was what I wanted to play on the PS2.
Nice. I knew nothing about this game. All I knew was it had pieces of Dynasty Warriors-ish action in there, but then you could also ride a dragon. So that sold it to me right away. I knew nothing about it, knew nothing about the lore, but the fact that you can run through the battlefield, hack and slash through a bunch of hordes of minions, and then at the same time play a little Panzer Dragoon on a dragon, I'm sold, man. This sold itself, so pretty good.
Well, and for me, something else from that list is Battle for Middle-earth. Talk about a series I want to see come back as well. I know Bad Company, we want another one of those. I would absolutely play another Battle for Middle-earth.
That's the RTS one, right? Just making sure.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
I was thinking of Conquest, which was the Battlefront one.
Yeah. Cool, I would take one of those too, though.
Yeah,
that was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Now, EA, I hope if you're watching, well, the ideas are there, so let's get things going. So, all right, moving on to the next day, which is the 3rd of March. All right. Well, of course, the one and only the Switch releases this day. Is this the right day? It is the right day. No,
Yes,
it's not
March,
the right day.
March 3rd. I remember it being March 3rd because
You're not jumping around this time.
yeah, I remember it being March 3rd though because one of my good friends from the Metro City Boys podcast, his birthday is March 3rd.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah.
getting
This
the
was big.
Switch, yeah, it was big. It was like, that was birthday present for him.
The game was profound
he got-
sadness. All right.
He got Breath of the Wild, and
Yeah.
it was a time.
Well, this was also the same day I think the Wii U released its last game, which was Breath of the Wild on the Wii U, which then entered you to the Switch, which had a Breath of the Wild game on the Switch, just in case you were trying to trade in your Wii U, or if you wanted to keep it, you can play Breath of the Wild both on the Wii U and the Switch. Arguably, like one of the best-selling consoles of all time, or if not the best consoles of all time right now, right? Handheld and console.
Close. It's getting close to outselling the PS2 and being the best-selling console of all time.
Yeah, and it's still going. Like, I can only imagine. Like, some people still don't own a Switch. I didn't own a Switch till like its 8th year that it came out. So
I still don't.
See, there you go. See, people still have the potential to buy the Nintendo Switch. Okay. You have anything on the screen, Nick?
No, not yet. Just wait to
Okay.
see if there's a game that we want to relive in the background.
All good. So, all right, other games that came out today. Tenchu Wrath of Heaven on the PS2. Pretty cool game, in my opinion. In 2003. Apparently, this is the year of the Ninja, or the Day of the Ninja. Red Ninja on the PS2. End of Honor in 2005 in Japan. One of the rarer games on the PS2, actually. Halo Wars on the 360 in 2009. Way of the Samurai 4 on the PS3 in 2011 in Japan. And I think that Asian kid owns that game. I think I saw it as an inventory. Helldivers, the original Helldivers came out on the PS3s, PS4, and Vita in 2015. My personal, what do you call this? Like kind of secretly like this game was Zombie Army Trilogy on the PS4 in 2015. All right. Black Desert Online on the PC in 2016. And I know Ace has played Gundam Breaker 3 on the PS4 and Vita, which came out in 2016 in Japan.
Oh.
And of course, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild also came out that day. All right. So, Gundam Breaker 3. How many of them are there now?
Now we're up to, well, if you count New Gundam Breaker, technically 5.
Ooh-wee.
But, 4, like, y'all saw the explosion of hype that came from me when 4 was announced. But Gundam Breaker 3 was most definitely one of my favorite imports for the PS3.
Nice.
And it was also, one of the games that, it was one of the games that I really started majorly streaming after, getting my feet wet, just working with, the stuff on the PS1. So aside from like Parasite Eve and Brave Fencer Musashi and Xenogears, like literally around the time when I got my first subscriber on my Twitch channel, that of course being Blue Riot Bot. Shortly after he subscribed, what I basically did was, as a thank you to the folks that subscribe to the channel, I would literally sit down and put together custom mobile suit builds in Gundam Breaker 3.
I remember that. You were like making like the Terry Bogard Gundam and all this other stuff. So it's pretty cool. Yeah. All right. Yeah. I would say I wanted to bring this up because every time we talk about a retro PS2 game, I have my PS2 collection right next to me on my left. And I do have a copy of Red Ninja. So I'm pretty happy to see that on the shelf here. I don't know how much this costs, but I'm pretty sure it's worth a pretty penny, hopefully. But yeah, it's one of those rare games that was like made by Vivendi Universal, right? And who knows what they're doing now, so also chat, how many of you have played Red Ninja or who knew about Red Ninja? So.
Knew about, haven't had the chance to play yet.
I played it. I remember that it didn't sell well because it wasn't very well marketed.
Thanks.
Like, not a lot of people knew about it, and at the time there was like kind of like a ninja burnout for a little bit, so there's just no marketing, just kind of came out. I remember it being kind of late too, so it's kind of like a little more expensive in that there wasn't many on the market.
Yeah, it's kind of like that Sega version where that guy has the sword for a hand, right? Blade Will Tell or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's a super rare game, and it's actually pretty fun too. But it's one of those Sega games nobody's ever heard of, nobody's ever played. Therefore, a copy of it's like $300, maybe more now. So
okay, ooh, yeah, you said Ret Ninja came out in 2005. Guess what else was out at that time that it was also competing with? Seeing as how this is literally like pretty much the tail end of the PS2's lifespan. God Hand.
Oh, okay. No wonder nobody. Why is this on the list? Was it not the right day?
Not the right day.
Okay, that's why. Okay, right on. What is this? Audrey says, "Sexy ninja chick in red in the cover." That was it. Plamau. And I wanted to highlight Helldivers because this is what where it started, and a lot of people don't know or didn't really play the first one. It's a top-down twin stick shooter, which is not as popular as the one you're playing right now in Helldivers 2. So shout out to Helldivers in that one. All right. On the 4th of March.
Yes,
I'm pretty sure everybody in chat has played this game or has drinking a Pepsi in their sometime in their life. Because on the 4th of March, Pepsi Man on the PlayStation had come out in Japan in 1999. And I don't know if you got the message, but you need a drink. So check that out.
Oh my God.
Has anybody played Pepsi Man?
Hell yeah.
I was like, what? He's like, what? I'm pretty sure Pepsi Man showed up in a couple of Dreamcast stuff or Saturn stuff. In my opinion, he was more popular in Sega games than he was in PlayStation games, but definitely more in Japan. Mm-hmm. Actually, was in a fighting game at one point. Chat, if you guys know what I'm talking about, he might have showed up in Virtua Fighter as a copy of Dural. I'm not sure which one. It could have been Fighting Vipers,
that
one of those, right? Right. Not shocking at all. And I love how he has a chain, bro.
It might be either Fighting Vipers or Fighters Megamix.
Yeah, I feel like Fighting Vipers is so wacky that I would expect Pepsi Man to show up. And I think Pepsi Man is a racing game also.
Yeah.
Like, he just runs.
Pull up the screen.
Yeah, you got it?
It's got the opening cinematic too.
Oh, man.
Let's the dude is cracking a Pepsi.
Yes.
Oh. Man, the 90s
Feel
were
free to keep
time.
chatting, but it's just I forgot about this too.
See, around the time this came out, this was also getting pretty close to the release of the original Xbox, and more product placement games.
Poor guy.
So, like Sony had Pepsi Man, the West on the Xbox has Sneak King.
Oh, that's right.
Oh
Big bumpin'. Big bumpin', man.
I played both.
Yeah, Pocket Bike Racer. Bro, how did BK end up in video games? That's crazy, bro. Crazy. All right, you know what else is crazy? These other games that came out this day. All right, Turok Dinosaur Hunter on the N64 in 1997, and of course the Pepsi got Pepsi on the brain now. Marketing's working. The PlayStation 2 had released in Japan, and a couple launch titles came with that. Was Eternal Ring, Kessen, Ridge Racer 5, Street Fighter EX were some of the some of the launch titles that had come out that day. Another interesting game that came out that day was Conker's Bad Fur Day on the N64 in 2001, Fatal Frame on the PS2 in 2002, Freelancer on the PC in 2003, Army of Two, my personal remaster, should be released by EA on the PS3 and 360 in 2008. The Tomb Raider remake at the time on the PC in 2013. South Park Stick of Truth in the PS3 in 2014. And Gran Turismo 7 on the PS4 and 5 in 2022. So that was quite a day. Quite a day. This bro, what? This is one of those games that's like, this game could either be really expensive or really cheap, right?
Buff Kool-Aid, man.
Yeah, you don't know. All right, here's another game that really hurt my heart. On the 5th of March, The Bouncer had released on the PS2 in 2001. This was one of those games that I got bait and switched because the trailer did not match the gameplay. I would love to hear everyone's experience on The Bouncer because I got something to say about it. Ace, what you got?
Simply put, needs a remake.
Yes, and a rehaul in gameplay. It can't be 1-to-1. That's all I got to say. Yeah. My 2 cents, maybe like 25 cents. The trailer showed multiplayer and action. Think of like maybe if you watched the trailer and had God Hand gameplay, right? Then what you got was like Fighting Force. Imagine like the bait and switch that you got from that, right? So the Bouncer had a really cool trailer, and if you could bring it up, that'd be great. Like the gameplay of like the E3 at the time, these guys were jumping over tables and like jump kicking people on walls, right?
I think that's part of the reason why I, have more fond memories of the Bouncer compared to you, because you saw the trailer and it's like,
yeah,
this is what we were promised.
Yep.
And then.
Yep. There's a lot of videos about it on YouTube and what had happened, and ultimately it went down to like they didn't have enough time. That's what happened was. Now graphically, this game was amazing. It looked great, right? And Andre says this game was rushed out, and you can tell it was rushed out because the gameplay did not match like the trailer versus the actual. The actual was very slow, had a lot of physics-based, like very Tobal number 5 style, right?
Yeah.
But the trailer for this game, when it was teased, my goodness, it was like an action, like it was like Dead or Alive fighting in an action arena game. Right, like I said, people were like flying on walls and like jumping over tables. Like it looked really cool. It looked like an intense anime bar fight. But what we got was a more subtle type of game, right?
All the more reason why it needs to be remade.
Yes, sir. I agree. A couple games on the list that probably needs to be remade. Twin Bee in the arcade in 1985 in Japan. And if you don't know what that is, it is like a shmup with a bee or a pod with 2 boxing gloves. Google it. It's really funny. Bubble Bobble Part 2 on a Nintendo in 1993 in Japan. Shadow Man, The Second Coming on the PS2 in 2002. Resident Evil 5 on the PS3 and 360 in 2009 in Japan. Naruto Ultimate Ninja Storm 3 on the PS3 and 360 in 2013. Ittebayo. SimCity on the PC on 2013. One of my favorite games I still play to this day. And also Left Alive on the PC and PS4 in 2019, which is like a front mission game that nobody ever knew about, but the art was actually designed by the same art that did the Metal Gear series, which is super cool. But nobody knew about it. Any more high points on these games, guys?
Just on the 4th, we passed it up, but Freelancer was my pick for this. This way. No worries. Like Freelancer is one of those games that I still kind of have dreams about. It was one of those like PC games that I got as around the time I was getting close to graduating high school, and for me at least, it was one of those weird kind of like it just hit at the right point in my life because it's like a space trading and like a combat sim video game. That was published by Microsoft, but it was like for the first time for me, it felt like I was really out there in space, and that you had the choice to like you could choose to be a merchant or you can choose to like go and shoot people up if you wanted to. And it's kind of like one of those games that a lot of fans have been clamoring for like a follow-up to. We kind of got that in a sense with games like No Man's Sky. It's not as like freeform ability or survival like that one is, right? But it was just something about that game with the cover art, the dude just like this cool jacket standing, right with space behind him, just like the limitless like freedom it felt like you had looking at that. And it was a follow-up to the game Starlancer that came out like 3-4 years before it too. So yeah, just wanted to call out that one. But on the 5th, I just remember seeing SimCity coming back out, that re-release of it, and just thinking like, there's no way it can be as good as the original. And I seem to remember it had kind of a rough launch, but as soon as it ironed stuff out, as soon as it ironed a lot of that stuff out, like it ended up being really successful.
Yeah. I agree because what it did, because before that version of SimCity in 2013, they had SimCity 4, which was arguably the best one in the series, right? As the honorary SimCity nerd of this group, right? SimCity 13 had a rough start because it had to be online, and the servers were pretty jacked up because of the demand, and so nobody was playing SimCity. And it was the biggest thing was like make it offline mode, which they did. I think that's super cool, right? But it was at that point a little bit too late because the hype had already died down, right?
Yeah, too many people, like long-term fans rather, were kind of turned away at that point, myself included. So I get it. Also, can we please talk about the fact that Bouncer has this like he's got the little band-aid and he's fighting gimps?
Man, I mean, what else are you gonna wear if you work in a bar called Dog Street? All right, that's all I gotta say. By the way,
I was just taken away because they're just so cool.
They're ninjas, right? Oh yeah, but that is like his design. He was supposed to be like a dog, right? Like what's that movie with Jet Li, Danny the dog?
No,
yeah, Unleashed. It was Unleashed in the U.S.
Yeah.
But the design
in the UK.
The design on the back of Sion's jacket is actually, Angelo, Renault's dog from Final Fantasy VIII.
See, there's some connection there, right? So, but yeah, Sion was the guy, but Kuon was my dude right here. Kuon, right?
Sweet chest tattoo.
It was about to try.
This game is so edgy.
It came out in 2001. It was the prime edge timetable right there for you.
Yep.
But yes, check out SimCity, guys. You guys can. It's super cheap. Also, I think there was at some point you were able to import your sim into your city, so that way your sim can live in the city that you made. Super cool.
I remember that being in like some of the older Sims games too, but much more rudimentary.
Yeah, they kind of stopped the support with SimCity 13, unfortunately, but there was a lot of like advertising with like you can have the Prudential building there, you can have an Allstate building, right? It was super cool, but now it's like nobody cares. But it's the only SimCity we have left, so I care. All right. Speaking of games that nobody cares about, Cross Tekken on the PS3 and the 360 came out in 2012. Now, there was a lot of games on this list that I felt like I could have featured, but I chose this one because we actually hosted our tournaments for this game when it first came out. The hype for this game was exponentially high, and I'm assuming the budget was also off to scale because we're taking two companies and taking two IPs, right, and we're combining them into one mishmash of a fighting game. But boy, were there some blunders in this game. Ace, what you got?
Yeah, there were some serious. Okay, the game started off, or at least the marketing for the game started off on a incredibly high note. The character trailers that were coming out were just like they knew what they were doing.
There we go.
You get into the game, and it feels a lot like a more fast-paced Street Fighter 4.
Yep, that is true. That's true. Like it really combined the two games, right? There's a little bit of juggling, like in Tekken, right? But it did have the aesthetic of Street Fighter 4 mixed with a little bit more like fancy art, right? But I'd say they did a pretty good job with the combat system. I wasn't a fan of Pandora. Honestly, could have done a little bit better. Mm-hmm. But of course, this was during the time of like, how can we take more money from the consumer, right? With the current business model that we have right now, which was DLC was the hotness at the time, right? And so terrible consumer practices like paying for gems that make your characters buff, right? And unique, and of course having different versions of those gems available at certain retailers was not consumer friendly, especially for those who want to collect the full version of the game. You got to pre-order this game at 4 different stores, excuse me, just to get those gems. Right. Kind of ridiculous, right?
And then that's the roster.
Well,
how?
Well, go ahead. I think you know what I'm getting at here.
Oh yeah, how like half the freaking roster was basically already on the disc and playable via data mining. It wasn't even like there were placeholder names or anything. It's okay. We know that Lars and Alyssa and fucking
I think Lay was in there too.
Yeah, Lay and Christy, Guy and Cody.
Yep. That's what really crushes game is having those characters available on the disc, but you had to buy a pass technically to unlock them. Mm-hmm. It was not a great look for the company, and I honestly believe they did that just so they can make their money back in some weird form, because I definitely think they spent a lot of money on this game at the time. No battle passes were at the time, right? DLC was the only thing that they got, so they're trying to figure out how to make that money back in this game, and the gems weren't a good thing, right? But then to find out characters were unlocked between on the disc itself that's physically there, but you can't access that, right?
And then of course midlife crisis Mega Man.
Oh man, you got to bring that dude up. He was the box art Mega Man, right? That was kind of like the joke. All right, let me get to the other games here while chat complains more about this game because there's a lot to talk about. Magic the Gathering on the PC in 1997. I think that was Duels of the Planeswalkers. If not, it might be Magic Online that is currently still very popular right now. Shadow of Destiny on the PS2 in 2001. Chaos Legion on the PS2 in 2003 in Japan. Def Jam Icon on the PS3 on the 360 in 2007. Burnout Dominator on the PS2 in 2007. Motor Storm on the PS3 in 2007. Remake that, please. That's awesome. Pokemon Black and White on the DS in 2011. What's you got something? Ace?
Oh yeah, just Chaos Legion.
Oh yeah. All right, we'll get to that. Mass Effect 3 on multiple consoles, actually PC, PS3, and 360. I forgot there was only really those three at the time. Blades of Time, if anybody's played that game, I saw that game once on the shelf on GameStop and didn't think anything about it on the PS3, 360 in 2012. And Soul Sacrifice Delta on the Vita in 2014, which is actually a hunting game that's very like horror and goth, which is super cool. Also in 2000, Dimps Corporation is founded, known for their work on Dragon Ball Z Budokai and the Xenoverse games. And I also think they did like Marvel, right? Street Fighter 4 and 5, and Cross Tekken, Sonic DS and 360 games, and later Sword Art Online titles. So props on Dimps getting all that business, So, all right, I know you want to get this game remade, Chaos Legion. Tell us about it.
Hell yes. Now, I'll put it to you this way. For anyone that is interested in Tides of Annihilation, you are definitely going to want to give Chaos Legion a shot, because this Chaos Legion will give you a good idea as far as what, a good basis for comparison as far as what to expect from what we've seen in the gameplay for Tides of Annihilation. It's this, slick, sort of dark, gothic fantasy, action adventure, right up, hot on the heels of Devil May Cry. So there's already that sort of there's already that sort of hook. But then there's the different legions that you can call to assist you, which give you various abilities as you learn them, but also have their own unique little battle formations and tactics that you can use.
Yeah. Honestly, I feel like this game could come back as a free-to-play game. If they somehow figure out how to monetize it, because that's what it's all about, right? Different legions, different characters, costumes, of course. Do I want them to put a free-to-play game? No, but I feel like the model for it is there. Just because there's a lot of the nature of this game reminds me of Dungeon Fighter Online, right? But 3D. So it kind of gives me that vibe, actually, to be honest with you. So, but Steve Warhite needs to be in the game. Could be a guest star in Devil May Cry. You never know. Could be the same world, right? Pretty cool.
The last time we see him is as an assist card in Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3.
Oh boy, yeah, that hurts. That hurts a lot. A game that will not be limited to an assist card is, of course, Mass Effect 3. Tell me where you were when this game released, Nick.
Middle of the night playing it. I think I asked for that night off and the next day off work.
Beautiful.
So I can play it. Because this was prime as soon as because this is 2012, so it's right as I was finishing working at GameStop and then immediately starting to work at Reset like a month later. So shout out to Reset for giving me a shot. But Mass Effect was holding me over that time, and I was so looking forward to it. I know you and I have talked about it. It's part of your A to Z challenge this year.
It is
playing Mass Effect, and Mass Effect 3 for me was that kind of culmination of all those decisions you made. It was built on that. It was marketed as that. We knew it was going to carry over. How it carried over in the end obviously didn't appease everyone with the original ending. I did like the extended ending when they added all that stuff, that kind of nuance. It still obviously doesn't absolve the feeling a lot of people had of all of it distilling down to just 3 basically color choices, right? But I mean, looking back, I loved 3, and I love 3's multiplayer. That's still something I remember fondly to this day. It wasn't perfect, but by the time it started to really get rolling, there's a lot of content, and there's still people playing that multiplayer to this day, which is crazy. But there was so much stuff to do in it, and Ace, if you haven't seen, you should see the state of that multiplayer nowadays with all the unlockable like characters that are in it and all the different play styles. It's really, really fun.
I'm looking more forward to playing Mass Effect, of course, with hearing that. So, is the multiplayer is not in the Legendary Edition? I'm assuming, right?
No. So that was one of the things leading up to launch that people were kind of asking about, like, hey, will you bring this back? And BioWare said at the time it wasn't going to be in the launch, but if enough people bought it and there was enough interest, they would do the multiplayer. At least that's what they said. Unfortunately, it never happened. But because of that, a lot of people rediscovered the fact that it is available. I think if you buy the Mass Effect 3 release, not the Legendary Edition on Epic Game Store, I think you have to buy it on that copy. That has the multiplayer on it, and you can connect to those servers and still play. Correct me if I'm wrong, chat, but I still remember that being the case. I really feel like I need to boot that up again, but I want to see you get back into Mass Effect. Or, sorry, you get into it, and that might rekindle it for me.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And actually, some friends have told me, I don't really watch your stuff, but I want to watch you play. And I was like, wow, the decision making pressure is rough.
It's one of those things, like, it's good. A lot of streamers did that, and I highly recommend it for you. Just like let people kind of like try to influence you a little bit, choose your story still, like make it your story. But it's really interesting to see, because for at least the first part of that game, there is a lot of like little nuancy kind of things as you go through it, and you having your own Shepard's history, you kind of know, like, hey, did I save the Rachni Queen in the first game? Well, that kind of comes to play in the third one, at least in some respects. Squad mates that died in the first game don't even show up in the second, and then don't show up in the third, so you could miss entire storylines. Like, that's one of the things that sold people on BioWare and why I loved Mass Effect 3 and couldn't wait for it. I've said it before, I've got signed copies. I got really hard into that series. It's still one of my favorite series, and getting the Legendary Edition was great, but man, I'm nervous about the next Mass Effect after everything. And oof,
as you should. Yeah, literally like a book. Like, people invest in books, they read trilogies of the book, and this is like a video game that's like that. Where choose your own adventure kind of thing, and an interactive book with extra steps, right? So
there's something about, like, with 3 specifically, the lead up to it, the trailers that came out for it, like the story trailers, like the Reapers are invading Earth, like it's Earth being invaded. It was kind of that same kind of feel with like Doom 2. It's like hell on Earth. It was like Earth is being invaded. It felt more personal. So with Mass Effect 3, like seeing pieces of the Earth just get like destroyed by these Reapers landing, it felt way high stakes. And that was just from the videos leading up to it. So before you even got in the game, you already felt that pressure. At least as a fan, I felt that. So the marketing for that was on point, and still some of those trailers like showing like the little kid getting the toy before the Reapers could potentially just destroy that thing and him. Like, but that brings up another comment for another time. I'm sure we'll talk about it. But the little boy in the game, like, did he exist? Did he not? There's so many weird like rabbit hole theories about Shepard and all kinds of stuff. I won't take up too much time here, but I'd be interested to see you play that, man. It'll be fun.
Yeah, a lot of my friends will say "fuck that kid," but that's exactly what they like. Fuck them kids, if anything. But yeah, I just wanted to say that it's a game I'm looking forward to playing, and the stakes are high when playing that game for sure. Also, Def Jam Icon was technically the sequel to the very successful Battle for New York, but no. That's all I gotta say. No. All right, moving on, because I could be here all night complaining about games like that. All right, so this day on the 7th, Pursuit Force on the PSP came out in 2006. Now, who in chat or in this panel have played Pursuit Force in the PSP?
I did not.
Awesome. All right, this is why I wanted to talk about it. All right, check out that screenshot on the left. Yes, it's about you chasing cars and jumping from car to car to capture the criminal that's getting away from you. Like this guy said, let's just say this game kicks serious ass in the sweetest way by IGN.com. Wow, that aged poorly. That's great. So anyway, the gameplay of Pursuit Force. Well, you guys remember Chase HQ? So you're literally trying to ram the car off the road. Now, let's just say your car can blow up, so you have to switch cars. So you're this like rogue cop that like will chase the guy that you're supposed to be chasing, right? But you can swap car to car, jump from your car to another car, commandeer that car, shoot from that car, right, and then keep doing that because every car has durability. Because like guys are trying to stop you, and you know, screw the guys, screw the civilians in these cars, whatever. But the game, it quotes that you're only commandeering criminal cars that they're shooting at you, right?
Is this where Vin Diesel got the idea for Wheelman?
Probably, but man, this was one of the more fun games I played on the PSP when it first came out, and hasn't been anything like it. So if you guys have some way to figure out and play Pursuit Force, you know, physically or emulated, try it out, check it out. I think it's super cool just to experience it. And just because there hasn't been anything in the market that I go, wow, this is like Pursuit Force. I've never said that ever. So check it out. If you have gameplay, that'd be awesome. While I read off the other things as well. So
go ahead, toss it up.
All right, you got some Pursuit Forcing going on over here. All right, here we go. All right, guys.
Like an actual jump section. Go ahead.
Other games that came out that day was Blood on the PC in 1992, Onimusha 2 on the PS2, 2002 in Japan, relevant. Onimusha Dawn of Dreams on the PS2 in 2006, so 4 years later. Shadow Hearts From the New World on the PS2 in 2006. Soul Sacrifice, the original, not Delta, came out in the Vita in 2013. My choice was Tom Clancy's The Division on the PC in 2016, Nier Automata on the PS4 in 2017, Devil May Cry 5 in 2019 on the PC, and Dragon's Dogma also came out on the PC last year in 2024. There we go. Commandeer that vehicle, bro. It's not a crime when you do it for the law. Look at that guy. Fuck my car. Just pulled up in the street. Look at this.
He took a gunshot to the face.
This is amazing. Get him out of here. And this happens until you get to, you see the map, how close you are to the other cars. So it's like you have to do it consistently. So it's part racing game, part action, you know, part suspense. It's a little bit of everything. It's pretty great.
That is... I'm gonna have to get on this.
Look at that. Let's go. Dude, this guy's wild, dude. The cop reminded me of the guy that's in Dead to Rights, right? Kind of like, I don't care. Yeah. I'm going to get down. This was the era, right, of that like hard-boiled cop era. So I am the law, according to Andre. But yeah, Pursuit Force, guys, on that one. I'm sure, Ace, you want to talk about Onimusha 2 because it is being remade. Right?
Yes.
Or remastered, at least.
Yeah, Onimusha. Yeah, the Onimusha 2 remaster, like that right there was an announcement that I legitimately was not expecting.
Yeah, no, that's super cool. And then Dawn of Dreams was like what, the unofficial sequel, or is that canon to the other games, or what?
As far as I remember, it's canon to the other games, especially considering, you know,
Max Justice. Let's go.
Oh my god. But you know, the game's old enough now. The statute of limitations has passed. Spoiler alert, one of the characters that you do get later on in the game is Samanosuke.
Oh, in Dawn of Dreams?
Mm-hmm.
Sick. I didn't know that. That's cool. That's cool. I like that. But yeah, and hopefully that game also gets a remake as well.
Yep. And of course, it also introduced us to Soki, aka Hideyasu Yuki, who returns as a playable character in Tatsunoko vs. Capcom.
Oh, yep, that's facts. That's facts. And hopefully they utilize him again in some way or form in the other games. Maybe like a secret character in the background, or even in the new Onimusha game. You know, you never know. So. Yeah, that'd be really cool. I'm sure they used Dawn of Dreams. That they created the new characters, so they couldn't afford or they didn't want to pay for those movie actors' likenesses anymore.
Yeah.
Because that seems to be their trend, right? They were like making like actors as their video game characters at the time, so pretty cool. Yeah, real quick for me, The Division. When I saw that trailer, I was like, "This is cool, open world like action with your buddies." I like the whole like post-apocalyptic, post-virus, post-corona, right? COVID in New York, right? Terrorist attack, where like the Division is a unit within the United States government where like they show up when shit goes down, you know. I thought it was super fun. I had fun at the time when I was playing with people. Of course, the limitation of this game is content, right? At the end game, once you finish the story, what else do you got to do? And the majority of that had to do with like, was it called The Zone or something like that? Where it was like a no man's land, like a free for all for every player. But arguably, one could say that this was the beginning of the extraction shooter genre, right? Because this wasn't, it wasn't really intentionally made to be an extraction shooter, but this is where it started, in my opinion. So.
Yeah,
yes,
I like
have a lot of
the
problems.
premise a lot. I'm with you on that. That's what sold me in the first place, because it wasn't really like a game I was looking for specifically. But the whole idea that you're kind of in this post-apocalyptic world, like you said, you can run around in places like this and these shopping malls and like fight your way through it and like scrounge for any kind of like materials or ammo you can. I really liked that like sales point.
Yeah.
For me, this was one of those games that was notorious as, if you don't have friends to play with, why play it? Or notorious for the fact that when you bought it, when a friend sold you on it, they stopped playing, and then you had
Yeah.
no reason to play it once you hit cap. That happened to me at least 3 times with the Division. A different friend would pick it up, I'd play with them for a little bit, they'd stop or I'd stop,
Yeah.
and there was like this constant cycle. So same happened in Division 2, even with the improvements. Same problem. I kept running into. I didn't have friends to play with, and you're playing solo. You can only go so far in it and enjoy it for so much. It really was made for a group of friends, and that was the downfall for me.
Yeah, I mean, when the end game for these games are usually like multiplayer based, right? And I think that's kind of like the goal when they make these games is like, okay, well, people will play for the single player, right? And that's basically the story. But when they say what else is there after that, it becomes like this multiplayer thing where, like, well, it kind of requires the activities kind of require other people to interact with you, right? Whether it's strangers, right?
It reminds me a lot of those kind of like gacha games that you find on mobile, where you can play through the like beginning parts of the game or the beginning parts of the story, and then at some point you're like, here's the open world, now go enjoy the game. Now you have to play with other people, kind of thing. And it felt like that. It's like, unless I had people I knew, it's like I don't care, or it's just kind of grindy with not much of a point. It didn't give me much motivation beyond just like, oh, I guess I'll check out this area. Yeah, right.
Literally what Destiny is all about. Yeah, no, I was the same way. Happened to me too. Destiny, but Division 2 I played a lot as well, and then once my friends stopped playing it, like I had nothing to do except like roam around the earth and then shoot more criminals. That was it. Like I wasn't advancing through anything. I was and playing with, like, if you're not a person that you want to interact with other people on a mic, with strangers, like this is not the game for you, because you need that when you do those raids. It's required to have a strategy, otherwise you're just gonna get wrecked, right? So
one thing I will say, like rewatching this too, I love the UI for this. The way it's kind of like off character loading, like super clean. But the marketing for it with like the little orange halo they have on their backpack and stuff. I remember the collector's edition came with a watch for that with the same like orange light in it. I wanted that so bad. Like the collector's edition for this was really, really cool. Like they nailed the marketing for it and the aesthetic.
Yeah, the watch was a symbol that you were part of the Division, because these guys were just civilians throughout normal life, and then when they needed you, your watch would like beep, and it's like you're activated as a Division
Power
agent.
Rangers.
Yeah, literally American Power Rangers, right? All right, man. Yeah, you're just making me want to play this game again, because I do.
Right. But there's no friends to play with. No. We're not jumping in with you. You're on your own.
I'm just saying. I did like the story to this game. I like the narrative, right? And 2 kind of, I think now 2 is going back to New York when they were in Washington to finish the storyline, which is super interesting. I do want to play it, but like, there's just so many other games to play. All right. Anyway, one more day to cover for this week in gaming history, guys. I don't know why Ace is there, but hello.
He is the Terminator.
You are the Terminator. All right. 3.8. The Terminator came out on the Sega CD in 1993. I think it was still like a side scroller, but it also had FMV included now. So, because cartridges can't handle full motion video. Also, Super Mario RPG came out, The Legend of the Seven Stars, on the Super Nintendo back in 1996. Little funky game called Extermination on the PS2 in 2001 in Japan. Dragon Age 2 came out on a little bit of everything in 2011. Fist of the North Star, Lost Paradise, makers of the Yakuza series on the PS4 in 2018 in Japan. And my game that I played with everybody at the time was Warhammer Vermintide 2 on the PC in 2018. And a little game called Unicorn Overlord came out last year on a few systems, 2024. So, but yeah, Mario RPG. All right. So it just got re-released on the Switch, birthday Switch. What's your core memory of that?
Sitting down and playing through it with my brother, because that was part of the collection of games that my brother and I had borrowed from one of his friends on the football team at the time. He had Super Mario RPG, Pocky and Rocky 2, Link to the Past, Final Fantasy 3, and Chrono Trigger. And we just sat down and just barreled through that collection. But Super Mario RPG was so much fun.
It was like, to me, it was a milestone in Nintendo and my RPG like gaming life, because Chrono Trigger was out, right? Secret of Mana, these were like high hit RPGs, but to have like Mario be an RPG was like in my brain, right? Squaresoft and like Mario combined, oh my god, two titans, like forming a new blob was really cool. So that was my core memory of that, and like the game played really cool graphics, and I'm glad to see it come back for the younger generation to play as well. So
absolutely.
But another game that we should be sad about is Dragon Age 2, bringing back those memories of BioWare.
Yeah,
let me say about this one.
More about BioWare. I love talking about them because they were one of the reasons I wanted to get in the industry. Dragon Age 2 is a very fun one for me to talk about because it goes to show the dichotomy of BioWare fans. In that, when I was working at the store, one of my coworkers loved Dragon Age 2, and I did not like Dragon Age 2 as much as the first one. I loved the old school PC burn title feel of the first game, that more like slow plotting, like non-voice acted character, just reminded me of old PC games. That's not to say I don't want it to be updated if it felt right, but 2 went so much in the Mass Effect way that I just didn't enjoy it as much because of the scale. When you were in Dragon Age 1, you had this like Thedas, right? You had the entire big thing, and then you're in this like little part of this bigger map kind of, it felt like you were part of this bigger world. Dragon Age 2 for me was like you were only in Kirkwall and like one dungeon that's just like the same but sometimes recombinated. It just felt so scaled down and so threadbare. That's not to say there's things that I don't like about it, but I only bring up that memory because most of the time with this coworker, we constantly argued about that when someone would come in and ask like, hey, I want to play Dragon Age, which one should I play, the first one or the second one? And we both had extremely different views on it. I would always say Origins, they would always say 2. Over the years, I've kind of like softened on it a little bit. There's things that I enjoy, especially after getting through Inquisition and getting through Veilguard. But I still, what's that?
Said perhaps I treated you too
exactly. I judged it a little too harshly. But there's still like, it felt rushed when it came out. I mean, the characters were good. I still enjoyed that. I kind of liked where the story was going as well. It just felt like I was going from this big potential of the first game into this game that just didn't. It took all that away to make a more bespoke story, which is fine for the story they were trying to tell. But for me, it was just a disappointment for me.
In comparison, the both games, I mean, I would argue that you're right that like the first one had you covered like the world, right? But the first one limited you to a city. Of course, you're gonna feel that way because your expectation is like, I want to explore more of this world in detail. But instead, we're shoved into Kirkwall, into randomly generated maps that have like, of the same stuff that you're circling.
It was around. The same skin. It was the same dungeon. Just like, oh, you turn left instead of right. It was just like,
And I agree with you. And then sometimes they just flip it, right? I totally agree with you on that. Like, it was an asset dump of like, this is what we have. You can tell they had ran out of time and resources with it. So could have been good. And that game itself requires a remake, in my opinion. I think it'd be awesome. So I totally agree with that. All right. Well, that's another week in gaming history, guys. If there's anything that you guys want to say it in chat. Awesome. We post on X all the time. Let us know if there's a core memory that you guys have with the Division and how you hate it, right? Or maybe, Super Mario RPG and how you hate Geno. So, fun fact before we move on to quick bites. I remember Sakurai getting so frustrated with fans because he was like, "Stop asking for Geno. Stop it. Like, I'm not going to put Geno in Smash."
Right.
And then I think it was a troll post, but he said, like, translated, every time someone asks me to add Geno in the game, I'm going to delay the release of Smash Brothers by a week. And that's what he said at the time. And I was like, Sakurai, you're a G, bro. That's a legendary statement. But with that said, let's move on to some news with Quick Bites with Nick. You too get an awesome intro.
Oh, I do. I didn't know we had that much money floating around for that kind of thing. I was just going to keep rolling with what we had here.
Under the couch. It's okay.
Yeah, just a little bit, a couple like some pocket change. That's all we need for Quick Bites anyway. It's not too big. As always, really appreciate you guys just chatting a little bit about the news that's kind of happened this week. Ace, you already saw some news. I already had it on the list. So I'm glad we were already thinking about it. So on that note, for news this week, again, I'm just going to burn through some quick topics just because there's not any like huge articles I want to jump into. I do have 2 articles for you guys tonight, but that's just to kind of have a jump off point for a little bit of convo. So on that note, guess who's back? That's right, it's Acclaim. Acclaim is back. They're back after 20 years as a publisher, and they're looking to start a new era. Quote, supporting independent studios and original IP while rekindling beloved classics for a new generation. So now we can finally get maybe some revisiting. We can go back, maybe BMX XXX, right, guys? We're all looking forward to that. For me at least, Acclaim was one of those classic publishers. You recognize their logo first and foremost with like the rainbow like Nike swoosh essentially, and they claim with the 2 like double like arrow C's. I don't know if you guys have any favorites if you looked back at their games catalog and are kind of thinking about like, hey, what kind of like classic stuff could Acclaim kind of bring back out? Now obviously they're going to be working with independent studios pushing out some new IPs, but is there anything in that kind of like Acclaim backlog you're kind of thinking about now that you heard the news?
Ace, we talked about it, baby.
Oh, I love it.
Nash TV.
That's right.
There we go.
That's right. Oh, actually, and the rhetorical coming up later, we'll talk a little bit more about that, but keep going.
Okay, cool. Perfectly fine. You know what's not back? Skype. Microsoft is actually retiring the service on May 5th. Look, it's not quite gaming related, but I felt like I needed to mark the end of the era somehow. And with Acclaim coming back, we got to wave goodbye to Skype. I remember, my time working at Microsoft, we do like remote studies and stuff, which is a lot of fun, but we'd have to use Skype sometimes. Now, no more Skype. So wave goodbye. But thank you for your sacrifice.
Yeah, that makes sense.
We got Acclaim back. Speaking of coming back, we got a little bit more comeback for you. Activision has officially announced a new Guitar Hero mobile game, or has it? So I don't know if you've seen this, Ace. This is something I was going to hope you kind of ran across, but the last main entry for Guitar Hero was in 2015. So it's been just about 10 years.
It's been a minute.
What's really noteworthy about this is the game's official promo image, which is extremely obviously AI generated. So this is on the back of like the Call of Duty titles and the publisher having to say like we've been using AI generation in some of the games that we're doing, right?
Oh no.
That's kind of the big thing that's coming to it. So this leaked online. I'm going to pull up the link, James, unless you have the link handy. It's the Instagram link, so I'll just put it up on my screen so people have to log into their thing.
Maybe you can drag it over. Let me see. I don't think it lets me.
Oh no.
Yeah, that makes sense. So I don't know if you can see this here, but I don't know if you've played Guitar Hero, but you can look at the colors at the bottom, the shapes. You can see the warping around all the speakers here. Yeah, that's not fun. That's not good times. It really makes you worried about this coming back and being a thing. So this kind of like burned the internet over the last few days, right? This is what everyone's kind of talking about. Like, look at this hot trash. They couldn't afford to pay artists to come up with this. This is what they came up with, some AI slop, and it does look bad. So it kind of broke.
I'm sitting over here looking like Kermit the Frog, like, oh no.
First comment was enjoy AI hero.
Yeah, no, the comments on that thread are hot garbage. It's a lot of fun, but there's a little bit of a further twist. So it's been confirmed now that the game isn't real. So if you go to the game's landing page, it isn't real, but quote, it could be someday.
Oh
so
my God, really?
If you go to the game's store page after like following the ad, because they put that out there as like a way to like do some user research on it. You can tell them your interest via a survey. So if you see that thing out there, breathe the sigh of relief. It doesn't actually exist, but for a hot minute there, we were really afraid we were getting some AI slop for a game that the series has been kind of looking to come back, right?
Man.
So rough start to the week for a lot of people. Monster Hunter Wilds, you two playing that?
Yeah, it just started Sunday.
Okay. Well, now you are part of the crew that has made it the fastest selling game in Capcom's history. It has hit the 8 million units sold mark within 3 days. This is right after it had just hit 1.3 million concurrent players on Steam just 12 hours after its release. 8 million, 3 days. Are you enjoying it?
8 million.
Yes.
Okay, you're enjoying it. What are you playing it on, Ace?
I'm playing it on PS5.
Okay, James, what do you got it for PS5 as well?
Not PC. That's all.
Hey, I'm glad you mentioned that because that's also part of the news this week. So, kind of on that same note of it selling so well. So Steam is still picking up. Steam, it's still doing really well. They just surpassed 40.2 million peak concurrent users on there. A couple years ago, it was 30. They're already over 40 million.
Oh my god,
players.
that's amazing.
So we're kind of looking at that, and it seems like Monster Hunter Wilds may have had a hand in that. I mean, it's sold a lot of copies, right? And it is on PC. It is showing that Steam is kind of still the primary PC platforming, but that is a stupid amount of players that are getting behind this now, right? Speaking of that same thing, Capcom is actually responding to those PC performance issues, but the recommendations are things like updating your graphics drivers, turning off compatibility mode, readjusting your settings. You might want to start there. All of that is kind of frustrating PC fans more that are just kind of feeling like they're talking around the fact that the game just has really poor PC optimization. We're talking multiple bugs, crashes, visual glitches, and shaders just straight up not loading with both NVIDIA and AMD GPUs alike. So kind of a crazy thing on the back of this game doing so well, Steam hitting so many players, and the game is just not doing well on PC.
Well,
and what do you two think about their response to that?
My 2 cents, real quick, on this is that if there's 8 million players, is that just on PC or total?
That's total. That's total worldwide.
Okay. How many are in PC?
I don't have the numbers for that.
Let's just say half of them are PC. So 4 million players. That's 4 million types of setups that these guys have to look into to see if Monster Hunter Wilds works on that. And that's why it's so much easier for them to make it on console, because it's one hardware. Or two now, PS4, PS5 Pro, right, or PS5. But on PC, it's just so much more harder to kind of nail how to get it right, because of everyone's setup is different, right? Even just adding one less memory on your RAM changes up everything. So to have that many people playing this game is 4 million opportunities for the game to be yeah, this doesn't work with my setup. Right, versus 1 million, you won't have as many of those people complaining. So that's just my defense for Wilds. That's it.
Yeah, and I will say that usually with a game like this, I wouldn't say that the PC version is maybe even that high, but still, it's a fair amount. I mean, 8 million worldwide across all the different platforms is insane, and it's only 3 days in. You can expect some bumps and stuff along the way, right?
Crazy.
And like you said, designing for PC, you kind of have to aim for that middle ground. So there's going to be some things. I think the bigger thing right now, and the reason why this is newsworthy, is just the response right now is just hey, turn off compatibility, update your drivers. It's ooh, yeah.
It's literally sir, is the computer on or plugged in? Literally what they're hearing right now. Yeah.
Try just alt F4ing and then just boot it back up. It might work. To move on from that, just some more bits of news. We do know now that Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3 and 4 will release July 11th. We were talking previously about there was some maybe it is, maybe it won't. Nope, it is, and it's July 11th. So good news for Tony Hawk. Love it. And the PlayStation
Doom guy, the Doom Slayer's skater,
Spider-Man too, right? I think.
Before we get too far away from that, what is your favorite Tony Hawk Pro Skater?
My favorite, too.
Yeah. That seems to be pretty universal. They fixed a lot of things going into
soundtrack also bomb.
Soundtrack banging. So speaking of second one, PlayStation VR 2, it's getting a worldwide price reduction, and that's going to be permanent in March. It's going to be dropping down to $399. So it had started at $550, which was pretty hefty, right? And even I'm a little intrigued now.
5.
Yeah, and this was for the VR headset, right? The hookups for it. So It's intriguing me a little bit. I don't know if it intrigues you two dropping that much off. Like that's 150 off for this thing, right? What intrigues me more is the fact that they did release the PC adapter for this, so you can hook up your PSVR 2 to your PC.
Good.
Which is a much cheaper in than compared to some of like the PC specific headsets.
All right.
There's going to be trade-offs, but still kind of noteworthy thing to bring up. But we'll see. I bought the original PSVR. I held on to it for probably longer than I needed to. I liked the idea behind it, but it just did not have the software for me, right? PSVR 2 has answered that. There's been some really good game releases, and maybe this price drop will help, but there's still kind of like that barrier to entry for a lot of people. Maybe with that PC adapter and with the lower price point, you might see more of those on the market, and maybe some more PSVR support. Rockstar is back in the news as well. It's not about GTA 6. Sorry to ruin that for you ahead of time. Ace, I know you got your heart all set on that. But Rockstar has decided to acquire one of their longtime partners, Video Games Deluxe. The teams have been collaborating for years on a variety of projects, and it'll be rebranded as Rockstar Games Australia since they're headquartered in Sydney. But what is noteworthy here is Video Games Deluxe is headed by LA Noir's director and writer Brendan McNamara, who is also the founder of the now defunct Team Bondi. So they have the head and the brain behind a very good team and LA Noir. So LA Noir in the future, maybe they're picking them up. Potential. I know you guys love computer GPUs. The NVIDIA 5 series has sold out like crazy, right?
Of course.
Love it so much. So the AMD Radeon series, the RX 9070 and the 9070 XT will launch on March 6th. And we have a price point now. So they're going to be launching at $549 and $599. So cheaper. We'll see how quickly it happens before these sell out. I mean, they sold out the moment the box opened on those NVIDIAs, but lower price point, about the same, if not better performance. Just kind of an interesting thing that came up. All right, let's talk rumor mill stuff. As always, with everyone here, grain of salt. Take it as a grain of salt. I'll try to call out any kind of sources where I can, but just kind of a fun little thing to talk about and maybe some different potential things that come down the road. Fun stuff to talk about with our chat. I see that Andre is already there chatting about this kind of stuff. But speaking of those VR headsets, let's not get too far away from it. How about a fresh VR rumor? According to Gabe Follower online, who does have a good track record noted for Valve-related info, Valve is apparently aiming to release a standalone wireless headset, codenamed Deckard, by the end of 2025. I hope you two aren't squeamish about price, though, because it's being rumored that as a part of a bundle with games, it's priced for $1,200.
The VR headset?
Yep, the headset with some games with it. So that's going to be their new wireless standalone headset, if this rumor comes to be, and apparently coming out this year.
What are you doing, Sony?
Oh, this one's Valve. This is Valve.
Valve.
Oh, Valve?
Yeah.
See? See, I had that whole Bart. No, I'm right here, Mom. Please, no.
Will the headset work outside of Valve games? Like, it's just a general headset that works with everything in PC?
I could not say, but what I will say is that the rumors are also talking about the fact that it's going to be built on the same Steam OS that the Steam Deck has. So I'm assuming Steam games, probably similar to the Valve. I don't know if they're going to be rolling in like other things, or if there's a game that lets you boot in, kind of like how EA lets you, if you bought a game on their service, they can boot into their game from the Steam app.
Yeah.
So there might be some connectivity there, but just kind of an interesting thing to think about. We keep talking about VR potentially and like not blowing up as much as they thought. Again, it comes down to the software, man.
Yeah.
And I borrowed my buddy's Vive, and I loved the Vive, and I loved the Index. I probably like the Index the best because it has that connection to Steam. But that's a pretty penny, man. If this is true, it's
not even including the upgrades to your computer. You know what I'm saying? Like to handle it.
So one thing that was super interesting about this, though, if these rumors are true, it's a standalone wireless one. So the biggest thing that I had about it, especially using the Index, was that cord, like the cord that come out of your back and get caught on things. As I'm trying to play like Half-Life Alyx and get away from the head crabs, I get caught on things where I like step on the cord and jerk my head back, right? But if this is wireless, that's a pretty big jump if they can get this going. Yeah, so we'll see. You two play Marvel Rivals, right? We've talked before about some potential leaks with characters, but there's a new rumor about a new game mode that's been leaked. Speaking of leaks coming out.
Is it you pick one character and everybody has to play that character?
Not everyone has to play it, but it's called Clone Rumble and allow players to choose multiple of the same character. So that's kind of rumored to debut soon, and this could probably throw off that balanced gameplay that it's known so far, for. Throw that right out the window. So this is from Rivals Leaks on X. Who's leaked a couple things before, but this one was talking about like just imagining like 4 Hulks rolling out together. Like it will throw off the balance. It could be wacky, it could be silly. So I mean, as you two as players, does that sound like something you'd be interested in?
Honestly, it's like if it's just designed to have fun, fuck it, why not, right? But keep it away from the standard game.
Oh sure, no, yeah, have its own little standoff kind of thing. But yeah, no, I thought it was an interesting group that
more
popped
modes
up.
Are better. Get more people to play. Yeah, for sure.
Let's get the normies in there. Like me, I'll play it.
The normie is like, I don't want anything else but this.
Yeah, okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Speaking of rumors, here's a rumor for our boy Ace. Ace, Dynasty Warriors Abyss just dropped an update patch. So the notes included some new character tease announcements a la Pokemon. So that kind of thing where it's like a blank silhouette and you have to kind of like guess that guest character. Fans are speculating. They are speculating like crazy. And right now it looks like the leading guess is going to be Ryza from Atelier Ryza, Ever Darkness, and the Secret Hideout.
What?
That would be wild.
That's crazy.
So check out online, check out the little announcement in the latest patch notes. That's going to be the patch for this month, if I remember right. But yeah, so Ryza from it.
So that gives the character drop.
You know what would be a smart character drop for Warriors Abyss? Ryu Hayabusa.
Oh.
It's the year of the ninja, bro.
Of course.
Yeah, they could do that crossover, man. It'd be easy enough. I just thought that'd be cool. A little bit of like Dynasty Warriors. We can't get away from it with Ace, but hey, I saw that and I was like, I got to bring that up on Rumor Mill, man. He's got to talk about that and an Atelier game. two for one. There's not a lot of while there's not a lot of publicity on this next one, especially in like publicly available information, we could actually see the return of the Prince of All Cosmos. So Bandai Namco has filed a trademark patent for a new Katamari Damacy project called Once Upon a Katamari.
I like it.
So no clear idea what this could end up being just yet. There's very little information, like I said, but it is a public trademark for this, a patent trademark rather. And hey, man, it's been more than 15 years since there was a console game in the series. So
I think a Katamari with a timepiece, because they kind of just did it with like the Earth, right? And it gets bigger, then you get the universe. But maybe like you're in the medieval ages, and you're just rolling up things in the medieval age, like like the little themes, right? Would be kind of cool.
Like basically, literally rolling your way from the past to the future, like
that'd be fun. Yeah, that'd be fun too. That's awesome.
Katamari.
Andre in chat talking about the God of War collection. I think we kind of talked about that last week too, because Sony the rumor is that we're going to be bringing back the showcase, not just the state of play, and that'd be a prime time to bring up something like the God of War collection. That's been a rumor that's been floating around as well, so we'll see if that happens. On PlayStation News, the last little bit of rumor mill stuff that I had for this week was we already know that the Indiana Jones and Great Circle game will be coming to PS5 this year. That's already been confirmed by Microsoft. However, The Verge's Tom Warren has claimed that it is coming April 2025, very soon to PS5. Damn. So we've already seen, because Forza Horizon 5 is out next month as well. It's coming out in April, end of April. And it's already top sales charts with pre-orders for it. And that, like I said, is releasing at the end of the month. So that and Indiana Jones in 1 month, Microsoft's going hard in the paint immediately.
Yeah, and that was the Gears of War collection, not God of War.
Oh, yeah, so sorry. You're right.
I think that's great. I think more people are going to be playing their games, which gives Microsoft more opportunity to make more money, to make their own stuff as well. I think that's great.
All right, so first article and second article I have tonight are just two things I want to bring up for a quick discussion. I thought it would be super interesting because we talk about these games that never see the light of day. If you want to pop up or at least Lee, if you don't mind linking that, because I can't. The first article is from Game Rant. It's PlayStation fans are waiting for updates on games that were announced years ago. So I don't know if you two remember Pragmata, that kind of cool sci-fi thing that came out, the announcement for it. So As the article states, some outspoken PlayStation fans have recently been taking to social media to question what's happening with a few games, including Pragmata, that were announced years ago, but were yet to show clear signs of nearing release. So this had come up on our PlayStation, and the person who brought it up, Delay Connect 335, was asking for a status update on this game because it's been on their wish list since 2020. The question got thousands of upvotes and went to the front page of our PlayStation, and people were talking about it. At the same time, there was the other game as well, Little Devil Inside, which did get an update kind of recently, but Pragmata is still in the dark. We haven't heard anything about it. Little Devil Inside was a game that was on Kickstarter and raised, it looks like $190,000, the action RPG that it was. It was rebooted several times since April 2015, and they just broke their years-long silence back in early 2024 and shared some gameplay for it. But Pragmata, we still have no idea what happened to it. And this article brought up a really good fact that game development cycles has just been getting longer and longer for a while now. We've talked previously about the increased costs for it, the increased resources for it, and games that can be announced too early. I know that's a gripe we've had personally with some of the games that we've talked about before.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, Pragmata I completely forgot about until they brought this up, and then I had to go check out the trailer again. But this game disappeared, right? We have no idea what happened.
I don't even know what kind of game it is.
Literal vaporware.
Yeah.
And that's why I wanted to bring it up, because vaporware is going to be the topic of the conversation. So first off, that jump off point for those two games, shout out to the people that brought up those games that they love. That brought up the second article, if you don't mind tossing that in the link as well. But Hideki Kamiya still wants to make Scalebound is our second article. So speaking of vaporware, recently Kamiya had gone on to X and done a post with their little behind the scenes that they had in their office of them working on Scalebound. And he said, quote, "I'd love to make it again someday." I don't know about you two, but Scalebound is kind of notorious when we're talking about vaporware or what could have been, or games from Microsoft that were killed off before they came to be, because this was the Platinum Games title, right? And Kamiya at the helm. But he left in 2023. This game was canceled in 2017. Do you two remember Scalebound?
Oh yeah, how can we forget? How can we forget?
Do you think the buzz was worth it? I know you two are longtime fans of Kamiya and his games, and you've played more Platinum games than me by far. So just Scalebound, tell me a little bit your feelings on it.
Go ahead, Ace.
Honestly, seeing Scalebound, the first thing that popped into my head was oh my god, Platinum's making Drakengard. I want to see this.
That's true.
But I was legitimately hyped for the game when I saw it. I was like, okay, this looks like it could be something really cool. I want to see where they go with this. And then it just gets killed off, and it's wow, of all the games to cancel, that's just disheartening.
Yeah, and I remember the trailer being really cool for it too, the style behind it. And that cover art, the concept art they came up with, being really, really cool.
It was hard. I know they butted heads with this. Kamiya and the Microsoft execs butted heads with this project, and eventually Kamiya was like, "Screw it, I'm out of here." Right? And I knew there was an article I was reading at the time when this was the heat at the moment, was Microsoft had showed a trailer that Kamiya didn't approve of. Right, and Kamiya was like, "Hey, no one was supposed to see this trailer. Didn't get my permission." Right, so that's what kind of gave Kamiya a bad taste with this whole project and working with the West. Right, and I think this is where it went wrong. I do want to see Scalebound come back, but I think Kamiya had a vision for it being a really cool single player with an AI dragon that maybe did a bunch of stuff for you that was really cool, right? Because this is the progenitor of Nero, as you can tell. His design's very Nero-ish. Right, the new Nero in 5. So they had an idea for this, but I think Microsoft also had their own idea on how to make this game more viable for more people, sell more copies. Right. So if you guys remember, there was a trailer where they showed this Scalebound game, and then all of a sudden 3 other versions of this guy show up with their own dragons, and they're fighting this big monster.
Yep.
So I think Kamiya was like, no, we're not doing multiplayer for this because it's a single player game that's action packed, super cool, right? But I think Microsoft really wanted to force a multiplayer aspect to this. And I think this is where Kamiya was like, no, we're not doing this. What, how many times I have to tell you, right? And then Kamiya has an attitude like that, right? That's how he is. He blocks you on Twitter every time he hates somebody. That's how he is. And so I think this is why it needs to like be revisited by somebody that has more aligned with his vision. And I think right now, since he's in good graces with Capcom because he's doing Okami, right? Scalebound's in a good position to come back as his original vision. If Okami sells really well and they go, Okami, you did it again. Let's work on Scalebound, especially if they don't have a Devil May Cry 6. I think Scalebound would be a good opportunity for that.
So this is a good example of context. So keep in mind when Scalebound was coming out, that was the Xbox One generation. And that generation for Microsoft had a lot of issues out of the gate with how they were marketing it, how they were handling it, how they were developing for it. This time around, you have someone else at the helm of Xbox as well that's a little more open to these kind of things and a little more, at least outwardly, talking about like the gaming community as a whole with Phil Spencer. That's who Kamiya kind of like cheekily pointed to. He's like, hey, Phil, let's work on this, was essentially what the post was, right?
I remember that.
Yeah. So, you know, as the article points out, Kamiya is open to it. It would really be up to Xbox if it would even fit anymore. I mean, the title gets a lot of buzz whenever it's brought up for sure. It was kind of one of those perfect storms of opportunity. It was a first party exclusive RPG from Platinum with Hideki Kamiya, and a dearth of titles like that on the Xbox One. They didn't have things like that. Like the article points out, let's see if I can close that screen, as it points out here, Xbox already has several large fantasy RPGs in the works. They just released Avowed. Fable is, coming next year. Elder Scrolls 6 is coming down the road at some point. They've also partnered with Hitman developer IO Interactive for a fantasy game known as Project Dragon. It doesn't seem like there's a lot of room for this game like there was back in the day, so it would have to be reimagined in a different way, or potentially Microsoft might have to let go of the reins or just add to it. Right? It's just one of those things that, again, context of it, would it fit now kind of thing. But that's not the discussion I wanted to put up. But that discussion with chat here and with you guys, what are some of the big vaporware titles that you looked forward to? And then how many of those like canceled ones do you believe could still really be viable in today's market? So I'll go first just to kind of get the wheels turning on this. But for me, StarCraft Ghost was one of my like big vaporware titles. I love the StarCraft series. I was really looking forward to the idea behind Ghost because I loved the characters. I love the world building. I love the lore. I really wanted that to be a thing. And we even found out later on, I mean, there was gameplay of this thing, but it just never came out. But for you two, is there any big vaporware titles in your past? And chat, if you have any vaporware titles that you remember, and keep in mind, vaporware means delayed or canceled. There's plenty of games that you could bring up that were delayed, like Duke Nukem Forever. Well, that was a vaporware title. That was a huge vaporware title.
Well, one for me that I guess I could call it vaporware, but it still did actually release was, well, the initial concept for what we could have gotten with Remember Me. Now, picture this. Cyberpunk neo-futuristic Paris.
He's pitching so hard right
now. Exploration like Assassin's Creed. But with hand-to-hand combat built like God Hand. I'm talking customizing your own combos with so many different martial arts styles that she could learn or pick up from hijacking the memories of her opponents. That Remember Me would have been so fucking dope.
Yeah, I mean that's a cool rhetorical. Yeah, unique. Very unique.
For sure.
So that one could definitely sell in today's market. Was there any other vaporware stuff that you were really looking forward to, Ace?
Mega Man Legends 3.
Fair. Just that's right with that too.
That's a myth. It's not real. It's not real. That never left the drawing board.
Yeah,
like Andre said, another one of mine too, Star Wars 1313.
I was gonna say that one too, because like I remember the trailer of that and I was like, I'm not even into Star Wars that much, but that game just looks like a good game, right? And what was the pitch? It was like the same team was doing Mass Effect or something like that. I can't remember.
It looked like Uncharted, but set in the Star Wars universe, because it was that like cinematic third person.
It was somebody that was like really good, because I remember it was like I had very good confidence that this game was going to be released, and it looked really good. It played. It was
really developed by Lucasfilm Games, so
yeah,
that was before Lucasfilm was gone, and it was published by Xbox Game Studios.
It just gave a good impression for what it was. But if you're going to ask me for my unique take, I think if they gave the same treatment to Duke with the way they did Doom 2016, I would love it. You know?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was the cinematics of it. Like, it looked incredible, even for the trailer they did at the time. The little gameplay, like vertical slice they had of it, it did feel a lot like sped up a little bit, but it felt like Uncharted, like cinematic shooting behind cover, run up, getting a little fisticuffs kind of thing. But the idea of you being able to run around like the lower levels of Coruscant and be a bounty hunter and like explore that space and like live in that universe, it really felt like that. And it really sold you on that, even from the little quick trailer you had. So yeah, no, I was big on that. I'm glad you mentioned that, both you and Andre, because that was definitely one of the ones,
like a dark Star Wars game, which I thought it was really cool, because it, you know, everybody focuses on Jedi too much, you know, but I like the fact that you're like dark and you're like this like scummy mercenary, you know, like I love that. The other part of Star Wars nobody really talks about.
I'm gonna pull up the gameplay if you two had any other ones you wanted to talk about.
Yeah, I was just gonna say to chat, like this could be a total rhetorical thing, but like since I played Doom 2016, like I would love to see the same treatment with Duke Nukem, like the same love and care. So I would love the updated gameplay, kind of like what made Duke fun, and also add maybe some sort of like disrespect mode, right? Where like
so pretty much Bulletstorm.
Yeah, so pretty much Bulletstorm. But what I want to, the way I want it written, God, this game looks good. Look at this. The way I want it written is that I want Duke to be in modern times, but he hasn't changed at all. So he just like, you know why? Because he'd be Demolition Man.
Hell yeah, I'd play that.
Like they just unfreeze his ass somehow, and they're like he's in like the modern times, and he's like, "What the hell is this?" You know, like like that would be so funny. You know, just trying to figure out
bubblegum.
This gameplay is like over 11 years old, and it's still looking incredible.
I'm not gonna lie.
Rad.
Star Wars Outlaws. That's all I'm saying. You know.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, like this game is how I remembered it. Like this game looks really good, and I can't believe they went, no, stop making this game. You know what I'm saying? Like, and then the quality of Star Wars game we get now, like with the Outlaws, because I'm comparing it to Outlaws because I think Jedi Fallen Order is different, right? But like this game looks amazing for how old it is compared to the way the games are coming out now. That, I mean, this is another topic, but it just goes to show, like, I feel like the quality of talent has really changed or exchanged hands drastically over time, right? So, but that's, like I said, another story, another time for that.
Yeah, some other big vaporware ones that I kind of ran across is kind of like spark that. Maybe Chad has some more themselves, but Beyond Good and Evil 2 by this point. Remember Jason Gordon-Levitt came out with that. They were going to do a bunch of like community content stuff in the game, a big awaited sequel to a kind of cult classic original. Man, I cannot believe that we still haven't heard anything about this game in years and what's happened to that. Doom 4, that got canceled. Granted, we got something better out of it. Doom 4, if you don't know, you can definitely check out some interesting like behind the scenes and documentary stuff on it. But it was like envisioned as Doom, but Call of Duty. It was much slower. Idea. Yeah. Again, I call out Daniel Dwyer for no clip, but he did that. His first episode of the Doom Resurrection series kind of goes into like what that Doom game was going to be. Oh, thank God that went away. No. My biggest one beyond StarCraft Ghosts was Half-Life 2 Episode 3.
Of course, yeah, of course.
Like, come on.
They don't know how to count.
The cliffhanger we got at the end of Episode 2 is the epitome of vaporware, like the game that we're never gonna get. It kills me so much to know that we don't have that. We're never probably gonna get a Half-Life 3 unless they come out with those rumors that we keep hearing every year, and we see it. How about Star Fox Assault, the arcade game that we were supposed to get with that
Oh, yeah,
release?
that's gone.
We never got that. That's gone.
Star Fox is not
Daikatana.
Oh,
Daikatana
wow.
and its release as a vaporware, that thing was delayed so many times. Last Guardian also delayed as a follow-up to the team from Ico.
Well, that game came out, right?
It did come out, but it was super, super delayed.
Yeah,
super
it was.
delayed. There was also, like, you can talk about vaporware with like Star Citizen, still not being released.
That game is eternally in early access because they make so much money right now. Why would they?
Right.
There's actually one more. Like I saw this list online, and that's why I wanted to see what Chad had to say. Which again, Chad, appreciate you hopping in on it. But there was a game that Capcom had announced that I was sold on. Just because of the announcement trailer on it made it look so cool. I don't know if you two will remember this one.
Deep Down.
Deep Down. Yep.
All right, hold on.
So I have it in the share screen, but I remember when this was announced, I was so hyped for this because it looked so cool. It was it really felt like ahead of its time with like the design they got out of it. But I just remember seeing this title screen and being like, why is it called Deep Down? Why does it sound so dirty?
Just Dark Souls.
Why? Yeah, kind of thing. But the biggest thing for me is like the memes that kind of came out of this was the reason it stuck out in my head. Like it being called Deep Down, you're not really sure what it is. It looks really cool because it looks like you got some gameplay right here as you're like looking around. This is supposed to be like the next generation of these like adventure
this was PS4,
games. Right? Yes, this was PS4, and this was, if I remember right, the new like I think it was Manta Ray Labs or Manta Ray Engine or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was, but just again, the memes that came out of this. But this is one of those vaporware games where it was years, and every year E3 would come along and be like, hey, whatever happened to that one game? This was one of those games that always invariably came up for me. It wasn't my usual thing, but it's the fact that you're looking at this, you see this little like UI in the corner, you're not exactly able to tell like what this is.
It's a Dark Souls UI.
Right. Or like what and again, this was ahead of its time a little bit in the way that it felt, especially for the generation. So yeah, it was just one of those things like vaporware kind of titled, like what the hell is this thing and what happened to it? And that's on the back of the two articles. You know, you had Scalebound there, you had Pragmata, just an interesting conversation topic and something I thought was worth bringing up on the back of the news.
No, that's cool. I mean, I almost want to troll like new people of that Star Wars 13 trailer because it looks so like a new game that would come out now.
Oh, yeah.
And people are like, oh my god, this game's so sick. And then maybe like whoever's running that, like who's in charge of that, they'd be like, oh yeah, that game. Oh yeah, we're gonna make that. Kind of like force them to like get back onto it.
I legitimately feel like with the success of Jedi Fallen Order and Jedi Survivor, 1313 could still very well be a possibility.
Yeah, it's probably going to be retitled to something else to adhere to Disney Star Wars, right?
Yeah, from what I remember with that game too, that just kind of came at a point at where LucasArts was on the way out, right?
Yeah,
and
it was, for sure.
They had like canceled that game, laid off the staff, kept a skeleton crew there that just basically were licensors trying to just license the IPs out, kind of thing. But yeah, it was such a loss. Such a loss. And that was before the Disney buyout too. So who knows where the IP is, who has it, what's going to happen with it, kind of thing. Or if it was just taken to other games and we're never going to see it again. You'd think with like the how popular The Mandalorian has gotten, they would like retool that in some way.
That's true.
But
Disney's getting a new Star Wars director anyway, so they could possibly come back. You don't know.
Yeah, we'll see.
We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah,
that's
the quick bites for the night.
All right, is that it for the news?
That's it for the news for this
All
week.
Right. Awesome. That was a lot of good stuff on there, man. Welcome back, Acclaim. We appreciate you. We appreciate you. All right,
BMX Triple X or Mary Kate and Ashley. Bring it back.
I'm so ready to rock and roll, or a new Vex. That would be kind of cool.
Oh, shut your mouth.
All right, I'm ready for some tech here because I'm still amped up. I got some energy in me.
Welcome back, class. We've got for those of you that haven't had the chance to get your hands on Monster Hunter, we're going, Monster Hunter adjacent. We're going to be popping back in for some more God Eater 3 this week, and as promised, we're going to be showing off something of an analog between God Eater and Monster Hunter. So if you use this weapon in God Eater, you will already have your foot in the door with the kind of playstyle you will need for using it in Monster Hunter. That being, of course, the Great Sword type, or as is
the
referred
great
to
sword.
in this case, the Buster Sword.
Buster Sword. Buster Sword.
Who's ready for meaty chops?
Let's get to chopping.
So meaty.
Wow. That's cool.
Meaty chops. So you've got your 3 different blade types. You've got your short sword, your long sword, and your Buster Sword. So this right here, it's the difference between striking speeds, damage, and again, overall playstyle. With the Buster Sword, you're looking at movesets for both your standard and alternate attack that are a little limited. So instead of 5-hit combos or 4-hit combos that are like higher, faster paced, you've got the slow, methodical swings. And of course, your different chops. But one of the main selling points for the Buster Sword in God Eater, especially in 3, is something that they actually just recently added to Monster Hunter Wilds as part of their combat system. Offset attacks. So literally being able to utilize a technique to interrupt an incoming attack with your own. And with the Buster Sword, that's pretty much the signature strike for it. So, if you're holding down what's basically the stance button and then you hit the regular attack, your character throws up the shield pretty much to, get that defense in there and then counterattack with an uppercut. And in God Eater 3, there are certain burst darts, certain specials that you can unlock for the weapon, which enhance what you can do with that offset attack. But then, of course, like I showed back at the start, the other main selling point was, of course, being able to charge up your Buster Sword and then just drop it on the monster for major damage.
So the Buster Sword is more like the Great Sword in Monster Hunter, and then the regular sword is more like the long sword, right?
Yeah. Long sword is so. Buster Sword is pretty much Monster Hunter's Great Sword.
Mhm.
Long sword in this is pretty much the long sword in Monster Hunter. You've got your different stances and more specialized strikes, and then the short sword in this is pretty much the analog to Sword and Shield.
I like that. I actually like the timing where you have not invincibility frames, but you can block and then kind of instantly retaliate.
Mm-hmm.
It's super cool. And I know there's a bunch of those in Wilds now too.
Yeah. Now, one of the other things, I mentioned the different specials you can learn with each of the weapons. Normally, you can only charge up one level. You can use your stamina to, charge up for that heavy slash with the Buster Sword. But one particular burst dart that will more than likely become the staple of your gameplay if you're using the Buster Sword in God Eater 3 is going to be what's called Overkill, which basically, for those of you in Monster Hunter, Overkill is pretty much the true charge slash. So you use up more of your stamina, build up to 3 levels, and then when you see that thing going red, it's like you're swinging a building by a handle and just dropping it on him.
Like a club.
Yep. Now, Buster Swords, again, they do more damage per single strike, but also with stuff like that charge slash, it's designed to do heavier damage to monsters that are downed. So if you get a stagger or you get a topple, that's the perfect time to walk up, line up your hits, and while everyone else is just, either pelting them with damage, or while one of your other teammates is charging up their own charged slash, once it's time, just let it all go. Now the Buster Blades do have, of course, do have different designs depending on the monster that you use to craft them. The shrouds are, more of the sort of the technical build, the more technological builds with the elemental edge. You have stuff like Prion Buster, which is just, out there. And then crafting your melee weapons, you've got stuff like, where is it? You've got stuff like this, where it's just the jaw of the monster just crammed onto the handles. Like, yep, that's a good Buster Blade. We can work with that. But again, very much broadsword and massive, crushing damage type weapons. And clubs. Just a big freaking club. But that right there is going to cover it for the Buster Blade. For any of you that decide you want to go ahead and get into the God Eater series, if you're looking for something that is more methodical when it comes to gameplay, even in the midst of a lot of the more high stakes, high speed, high risk, high reward kind of play that you're introduced to in God Eater, you're definitely going to want to check out. You're definitely going to want to check out the Buster Blades. The damage alone is the single strike burst damage alone is well worth it, especially just how satisfying it is when you bring that blade down and you see that part of the monster just shatter.
Yo, chat, you're crazy. Artimation says, meet me at the club. And Jacobs is like, everybody.
Yeah, I was gonna go with maybe more of a 50-cent thing, but you can find me in the club.
It's more like everybody in the club getting hits.
There you go.
That's what's going on. That's all right. I don't know if I have any kids, but I got a lot of dad jokes coming up here. All right, awesome. Hey, appreciate you. All right, Ace, good job, man. As always, I'm excited for the next session because I think we're moving over to Monster Hunter Wilds, which if you guys are playing that game right now, there's a lot of tech to be shared. So I'm looking forward to that as well.
Mhm.
All right, we're gonna add a short, brief section here with the rhetorical. So let's go ahead and chat a little bit. So earlier we were talking about Acclaim coming back, right? But how do we want Acclaim to come back? I think, Nick, you shared that they're coming back to publish indie games. Is that what you said?
Yeah, they're going to be working with independent devs, and they're going to be doing working on new IPs as well. But they did say they wanted to maybe do some refreshes of older stuff.
Yeah, and I totally like that idea because when we're talking about refreshes of older stuff, I'm thinking of Smash TV, right? And that's a very notorious Acclaim game, and I use a lot of sound bites from it.
I'd buy that for $1,
right? Because we all know,
I love it,
right? Stuff like that. And so Ace and I were talking earlier. Hey, we want Smash TV to come back, but do we want a 1-to-1 copy of Smash TV with better graphics? Maybe it's a third-person shooter. I don't think we need to spend that much money. And I think I'm echoing a lot of executives with that statement, but it's all about how you utilize, the creativity. It's video game design, right? So we were thinking, what does Smash TV remind us of? Well, the first thing to come up is Roguelite, right? And the second thing to come up was Hades. So what if we got a Smash TV that came back as a Roguelite, right? I think that would fit totally with the aspect of Smash TV.
I mean, listen, we got Warriors Abyss. All right. That game not only has been doing surprisingly well for something that, something that shadow dropped like that, but also just like a lot of people already have that interest in roguelikes because of stuff like Hades and Hades 2, stuff like Vampire Survivors. So imagine, literally televised deathmatch arena taking place in, various procedurally generated rooms and battlefields. You've got all your different guns, you've got truckloads of things that you could do as far as like, different buffs or even different debuffs, right?
Everything is on the table, sir.
I mean, imagine this. Twitch plays Smash TV.
Oh, brother. I think you're onto something. I think it would be so fire if they made a Smash TV where on stream the streamers interact with your gameplay,
like with Attack on Titan.
And they do this with Dead Cells. They decide what upgrades you get next and stuff like that. This is a perfect time because Smash TV would be like Stream TV or Smash Stream or something like that, right? This is, guys, ACCLAIM, bro. We're on to something over here. We're gonna patent this and not release it until 2036, just like a certain thing that we wish it would come out.
Oh God.
No, but this is some good stuff right now, and I think this is what I'm talking about. Where ACCLAIM, like, if you want to go back and have people remember, of course, we would love for you to release your collections. I would love that, right? But at the same time, reignite the passion for these new, the older games with new technology, not necessarily new graphics, but the fact that you're playing Smash TV and the crowd can interact, your audience can interact with you. That is next level, like, interaction with the gamer. That's super cool. I love that idea. I mean, of course,
your original question being like, how would you want them to come back, and doing those kind of like new spins on it are certainly a good way to go. I do like, given that their background is publishing and distribution, I do like what they're doing, working with some newer devs, getting some of that stuff out there, potentially giving some of these like smaller teams these reboot projects like that would be a great way for them to come back. There's a lot of games that they were a part of, but it's really hard to tell like who has the rights to what. Like chat's kind of talking about right now, like, oh, this game would be kind of cool. It had the ACCLAIM name, but that wasn't their dev team. They just published it, kind of thing. So they're like revisiting that role. If they're going to be publishing, putting some of these games out, and anything they can kind of get their hands on IP wise that kind of like revive some of these would be really cool.
My man Dio just opened up with the perfect start. A proper Gauntlet Legends or Gauntlet Darklings.
I mean, here's the thing. Why not combine both? Why not have a Gauntlet game where it could be in an arena, and then the audience gets to dictate thumbs up, thumbs down. You want to give these guys, and in the gameplay, they have to entertain you. So if you have to kill in different ways, you can't just mash a button, right? You got to be creative, and maybe like the crowd gets to decide how they want you to play or defeat a certain monster, right? So, man, I think that's, like I said, and the thing with ACCLAIM, I'm glad they're doing indie, because like I love what they're doing with Ninja Gaiden and Shinobi, right? If ACCLAIM could be that new retro revitalization of old titles and introduce them to the new generation, I think there's a proper niche for that in this market, both new and old gamers alike. So,
well, and we still see it. And J&G, you're correct. Turok was published by ACCLAIM, if I remember right. I think you're right on that. But
that 64 one,
yeah. So that kind of brings to mind one of the things that I do like about what's the big distributor, limited run games. So there's a lot of nostalgia when they bring out these older games, like re-release with newer like collector's editions and stuff, like reviving interest in it. Like ACCLAIM can do that for some of these titles. There's still an appetite for it. One of the things I think of ACCLAIM, and again, this is like, if I take who has the IP out of the equation, I would love to see them bring back Burnout. Like ACCLAIM was responsible for getting Burnout published. Like we've been talking about wanting a new Burnout for years now. Like I would love a new proper follow-up to that as well. Put it in the hands of someone new, someone else who like makes these kind of games. Make it fun. Don't put it just on mobile, please.
Yeah, for sure. And here's the thing, like you bring up Burnout, right? I have an idea for a new Burnout game. Make it chariot racing.
Oh God!
Right, and then make it funny, make it crazy, right?
Wasn't there a like a PS2 chariot game? Was like
Circus Maximus?
Yeah, Circus Maximus. Oh no!
Yeah, no, I'm saying.
Wait, Acclaim published Crazy Taxi on the PS2 GameCube.
There you go, but that belongs to Sega.
Yeah, that
right, and Sega should be bringing that out anyway.
Yeah, that's a thing for sure. I think Crazy Taxi World. I think they're going with that,
but still not bad. I mean, it's better than saying because we mentioned Shadow Man Second Coming earlier. They were responsible for publishing that. Don't know if we need a new Shadow Man, but
I'm just saying, like, there's that new Terminator 2 game that's a 2D game that's coming out. Yeah, right. Like, there's a lot of possibility with games like that for smaller titles to just be made that's fun and everybody will buy. Like for example, Ace and I were talking about Judge Dredd earlier, like for the Super Nintendo, right? They published that, or
well, wait, think about it this way. With the recent announcements and the semi-recent success of the Tony Hawk remakes, Acclaim is also responsible for publishing other extreme sports titles like Dave Mirra Freestyle BMX,
SX Superstar, Speed Kings,
Jeremy McGrath
Extreme G Racing.
Yep. And then if they could maybe, like, for example, like, and this is just me like throwing ideas out there, maybe they can revitalize those games in the form of like Skate or Die. Right, where like you can pick, there's a hub where you can kind of go around, and then like each one goes to a different section, and like it's got to be more art, right? Think about maybe what if it had an UI like Persona, but it was all graffiti, right? But that kind of like level of UI though, you know what I'm saying? Like they can take this a matter of different ways. They just got to get the right vision for it, right? It doesn't have to be like $10 million, to be honest with you, right? And like I'm okay with small projects. I think we need small projects to stay alive in this industry because games are expensive. They take forever to come out, and I love small titles to just pick up and play, like Vampire Survivors.
Yeah, that's been the big conversation that's happened lately. We kind of touched on it a little bit during our first article, just with the expansion of resources, time, energy, money needed to publish a game nowadays. The industry's kind of at this like little crossroads. Like we're starting to see indie once again become more and more relevant, and these smaller scale games get the time they deserve. Now it's become more of a necessity for like filling in the gaps around these bigger launches. You have more people trying these indie games, even with like, let's be honest, we all have backlogs and stuff, but we still are kind of looking for that next new little thing to kind of quicken out because we're getting older as a gamer generation as well, and we have less time to like dedicate that kind of stuff. I'm still playing the hell out of Metaphor. I don't have time to hop on that every night. Like you said, Vampire Survivors is perfect. I can hop on, play for 20 minutes, get my fix. And hey, if that means revisiting some of these older titles, maybe reimagined a little bit, that this could be a great chance for Acclaim to kind of like get that kind of ground game going.
Or again, like how I do Warriors Abyss. I mean, I take breaks. I've literally been taking breaks between First Descendant and hell, I even took a bit of a break from Monster Hunter yesterday and just got in like a quick run on Warriors Abyss, and I was like, okay, I'm good. That was my pick up and put down. So
Wargrove's a good one, James.
So yeah, the smaller sort of, what do I call them? Fundraiser games.
The Kickstarter games?
The smaller, fundraiser games that, keep interest not only in, the hobby, but also helps keep the money, also helps keep the income coming in that can go towards the next big tentpole project.
Yeah, and I think like the key here is not to be able to just limit it and shoehorn it into mobile, right? Because we all know that it's cheaper to do it in mobile, right? But
at least the margins are a lot higher.
yeah, exactly. But I'm just saying that it's a tough call. Like for example, there's a new Suikoden now. It's got mentioned, and it's for mobile. right? So and my friends were posting it on my chat, and they were like, "Dude, new Suikoden game, awesome! It's got the OG graphics." I'm like, "Yeah, it's mobile." They're like, "Fuck!" Like literally, that was their response. They're like, "Damn it, I don't want it to be mobile." Then I told them that there was a remaster coming on. They didn't even know about that. Now they got excited for the remaster, you know. And so
tell them next time they ask about that to tune into the show then, because we talked about it, man. And we love it.
Yeah. We'll bring it up sometime. But yeah, that's
bring it up constantly.
That's the feedback that I got from them, and you know, it's stuff like that. And Acclaim, honestly, I hope you become the new way forward, like the new like indie, smaller, you know, studio that like people love your stuff. Like I was as much as I want these studios to be like who did Cuphead, like MD Theory or something like that. Can't remember. MDHR, like those guys, man, they put their houses on liens because they were so passionate about getting that game done. And man, that thing belongs to the museum. You know, that's exactly, that game is great.
Same thing with Ban and Rudis and the team that he was working with for River City Ransom Underground before they moved over to Way Forward.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like Way Forward does a good job of like, you know, finding this talent and like, hey, I see a great potential here, right? And I hope Acclaim just you know, finds its like portion in the market, because I know the market's so saturated. But I would love for them to find their niche and run with that niche. Like, you know, that's what they're good at, you know, and we just don't know what that's going to be just yet. But I didn't see the PR person post on X today, and he did drop Wizards and Warriors and Tiger Heli on his post. So hopefully we get a new Tiger Heli, even if it's like a smaller title, a shmup. That'd be super cool. But Wizards and Warriors, boy, I never thought I would heard that. And if you heard today's intro song, the intro song to the podcast was the Wizard and Warriors theme for the first stage. So that should bring you back as well. But yeah, Acclaim, welcome back. It's a rat race out there, friend, but that's good to see you. That's all I got to say about that. What about you guys?
Yeah, I agree.
Welcome back, and thank you for your service.
Thank you for the memories.
Let's go. Yeah.
I'll
be really interested to see what they end up doing. And again, it's like great that they have this drive to fill that void, but publishing isn't the issue so much. Like a return to form for like indie publishing, that kind of thing, getting the word out. Like that's where we could use some revamping and stuff, and hopefully they fill that gap more than anything.
Yeah. What was it Artimation? Yeah, I think they brought that up. They're doing a Comic Zone. Sega's handling that for sure, along with their, like, you know how Shinobi's coming out and a new Crazy Taxi. They're on this campaign of bringing back those old titles, but Sega's handling Comic Zone for sure.
Yeah, I mean, they're not just putting it in their Yakuza games anymore in the arcades.
Right.
Bro, I think it's so cool as an added value that you can play these old games within the game. Right,
dude,
but
that's one of the reasons I bought those games for that reason. I can go play Super Hang-On anytime at the Sega store.
I think that's such an undervalued love for these developers to put that in.
They don't have to. Game. It's the whole game. It's not like a level. It's the whole game.
It's not a demo. Yeah, it's legit. Like the ROM is in there or something. Mm-hmm. It's great. It's beautiful. So no, that's wonderful. Like I said, Acclaim, welcome back. I embrace you with open arms, these 33-inch arms.
Arms wide open.
It's not very big, not very long, but all right. Anything else before we close it tonight? Man, tonight was fun, super packed with a bunch of details, and the topics were great. And now, now you got me thinking of I want to bring some people on the show to kind of get their input on this, because I know I have a few people that are really want to be vocal with Magic the Gathering lately, because there's been more outside IPs of Magic the Gathering coming into Magic the Gathering, and they're not loving it.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Like Final Fantasy 7?
Yeah, they're just like Final Fantasy, Spider-Man, and they're like, next year we're getting SpongeBob, and they're like, dude, we're not even getting in-game Magic stuff. We're getting so much more outside Magic characters and themes, and they're kind of frustrated with it, because there's nothing like playing a game of Magic and pulling out your SpongeBob commander to go cast a spell on it.
Wizards of the Coast is basically, doing with Magic what Funko
literally. And the sad part is that's where they do make a lot of their money, is because it's bringing new people into the game, right? But the purists, the ones that have been playing it for a while, they're just like, man, I feel like you guys are ignoring us, right? So it's been more obvious than lately, because like they've announced Final Fantasy like a set ahead versus like the one versus the next set that's supposed to come out that's in game. So they're just like, okay, I see where your priorities are, right? So they're kind of worried about that. So, and they also jacked up the price on the Final Fantasy pack. So it's rough. It's rough. All right, let's close it out for tonight. I got let's see, just track here, something fun. All right, and let me address the chat here. All right, hey class, that's a wrap for class 22 for the GQAzndood Gaming Academy. Appreciate you guys as always. Tonight we hit all the right buttons: A, B, select, start. We took a joyride through this week in gaming history with the Nintendo Switch launch, proving that sometimes the best things come in handheld packages. We dove into Yo Check This Out, where we compared Japanese and US box art. Turns out our cousins overseas really do judge a game by its cover, and usually they're better at it than we are. Also, in the tech, Blazing Ace Nelson showed us how to swing the Buster Sword in God Eater 3, making us all want to take a big old bite out of some of that virtual gods. And Nick, aka the Tragically Elite, dropped the latest news, the epic return of ACCLAIM, because the 90s just called and they want their nostalgia back. I know I do. But before we hit save and quit, remember, every game has a restart button. Whether in a boss battle or real life, it's not about how many times you get knocked down, it's about how many times you hit continue, and how many credits you have, apparently. Stay inspired, stay grinding, and always aim for that high score. Thanks for joining us. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with your fellow gamers. Smash that like button, all the cheesy, corny stuff you see online, because we love it, and it helps us out. Until next time, keep those controllers charged and your spirits even higher. Keep gaming, kids. We'll see you next time.
Class
ACCLAIM back, baby. Let's go.